this in one way or another been translated to how busy or not busy the roads are. The person to tell us is Traffic Marshal A1 Doreen Arange with the traffic update.
One of those roads that branches off from the latest superhighway to be reconstructed in the country, and that is Outer Ring Road. So this morning, just from where Juja Road begins, this is at the Komarok roundabout. This is where this specific is, and also it's important that in as much as, yes, county governments have been in a bid to reconstruct roads to make them more passable for residents, really gone through that, just except for one roundabout. I'll be showing you a bit later, even as you continue looking at the traffic on this specific road. But just from where the road begins at the Komarok roundabout, obviously, just the way we'd expect to see around the entire roundabout, that is where traffic, just begins. And the way Ray mentioned earlier on is that, yes, people have gone back to business, and this could really be a clear indication. You may also remember that yesterday when we were looking at Mombasa Road, this is again also what we were spotting in terms of the traffic gridlock, and especially around major roundabouts. And yesterday, as we were looking at the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, we were just seeing the same kind of thing that we are seeing this morning around the Komarok roundabout. Traffic beginning to build up on this road, and I can see on some specific parts of the roundabout, the red color indicating that traffic is moving at a pretty slow pace. Again, those that are using Juja Road, those that are coming from Kangundu Road and using this road coming to the city center, this really might be the best time for you to do that, because as of now, a couple of minutes past 7 a.m. and this weekend sport in this early morning hour, you can imagine probably from around 8, 9, then we'll just be really seeing traffic at a standstill, because there's, as of now, traffic beginning to build up through the entire roundabout, and in some parts like major roundabouts where we normally spot traffic police as early as 6:30 a.m. I'm not so sure if on this specific roundabout there's any traffic police, because, well, the traffic gridlock is really quite unbearable. Also, it's important to note that just using this roundabout also serves people that are coming from Outer Ring Superhighway, and also those that are coming from Mombasa Road using Outer Ring Road through this roundabout going all the way to Thika Superhighway, or through this roundabout choosing Juja Road going all the way to the city center. So again, that may also be the reason why there's heavy traffic in this morning hour around the entire roundabout. But leaving the roundabout using Juja Road coming to the city center, again, just a slight snarl up as you leave the roundabout. But on better parts of that road coming all the way to the city center, no traffic at all, moving at a pretty fast pace. Just next to Moi Forces Academy, that's where I can spot traffic, and that is on the lane that is leaving the city center coming to the estate, which is really highly unlikely, because most especially on lanes that are coming from CBD going to the estate in this early morning hour, we barely spot traffic. But as of now, on that specific area, that's just where there's a slight snarl up. Remember, also on that specific place, again, it's also a bus terminus, and like I keep telling you, in places where it's it is a bus terminus, then that's just how we'd expect the road to be looking like. But away from that, still sticking on the same road, again, slight build up on the lane that is coming from the estates as you come to the city center, which is also obviously because it is the morning hour, it is the morning rush hour. So what we are really spotting on the lane that is coming to the city center is what we'd expect to see, given the fact that it sort of looks like things are going back to normal, especially around Nairobi. So that is just where traffic begins to slightly build up as you come to the city center. Again, if you're using Juja Road, going about your businesses in the CBD, or if you're using Outer Ring Superhighway, or coming from Mombasa Road, wanting to use Outer Ring, connecting to Juja Road, or using Outer Ring Road through the Komarok roundabout, going all the way to Thika Superhighway, this might be the best time for you to do that, because in as much as, yes, there's a slight snarl up, it is manageable. It's just on specific areas where the traffic is really moving at a pretty slow pace, but at least on major parts, moving at a really fast pace. Now, I was telling you about the reconstruction of roads that has been happening around the city center, and we have seen numerous number of roads which have just been reconstructed, at least to make it more passable to pedestrians and also to reduce on the number of death cases, and that's why we have been seeing more of the footbridges. But on this specific road, there hasn't been so much reconstruction of this road, maybe because it's not one of the really major roads, if I may assume, but this is one of the roundabouts that was just erected on this road, which wasn't there. This is the next to Mlango Kubwa roundabout. It also goes all the way to Thika Super Highway. So that means if you're coming from Juja Road and you want to go to Thika Super Highway and you do not need to go all the way to Pangani, because then again also the Pangani intersection, the traffic is normally unbearable. This might be one of the alternative routes going all the way to Thika Road, that just as you branch off from the Mlango Kubwa roundabout, one of the recent roundabouts to be reconstructed on this road. And unlike what you Komarok roundabout, where it was just traffic gridlock around the on Mlango Kubwa roundabout, it's not really, you know, what you are seeing earlier on the other roundabout. Just clearly showing you that on this specific roundabout, and as much as there is traffic, it is only on some parts. Remember, when you are looking at Komarok roundabout, it was throughout the entire roundabout where there's a gridlock. Again, this is because that roundabout connects to a number of roads, just as I have mentioned to you earlier, which doesn't connect to numerous roads, just connects to the road that leads to Thika Super Highway and the one leaving Juja Road, as well as the one going to the city center. And on this specific roundabout, traffic is only being seen on the lane that is coming from the estates along Juja Road, as you use the roundabout leaving Juja Road going all the way to the city center. So that's that in terms of traffic this morning. I'll be giving you alternative routes for those plying Juja Road in the next link-up segment.
Thank you very much for that update. Now we look in the headlines. Let us look at stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. And we start with the Daily Nation this morning. Interesting header there is that Uhuru endgame is to impeach Ruto. Allies fear. That is Uhuru endgame is to impeach Ruto. Allies fear. Now their quoted is Caleb Kostani. Thus, the Jubilee Deputy Secretary General says the Deputy President allies will fight to protect his position. Further on, David Murathe, Jubilee Vice Chairman David Murathe, was reluctant to comment on the alleged impeachment plans. Now, under siege, Tanga wing of Jubilee now claims the ongoing purge in the Senate and National Assembly leadership and rushed changes in the House committees are calculated to clear the way for removal of their leader. Now, that is the details follow on page 10. Maybe we can just briefly head there. And just to add on to that, or rather spice it up, as copied or rather as published here this morning, is that Uhuru men plotting Ruto's impeachment. And now that's what the DP allies now claim. Just to read an excerpt there is, 3 houses are targeted for reconstitution by the minority side of the National Assembly, and President Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga lay ground for smooth sailing of the Building Bridges Initiative report. Now, both Jubilee and the majority in Parliament and the NASA coalition, the minority, are expected to make changes in the committee membership. Jubilee has already started its purge following last week's ouster of allies of Deputy President William Ruto from plum Senate leadership positions. And now the nation has also learned that Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has also ordered a purge on his errant members who are not ready to support the government agenda. There are also a few facts as to what is required to oust a deputy president, bordering on what is in the constitution. And for you to impeach a deputy president in Kenya is a game of numbers, and that requires the enviable 2/3 majority in the 2 houses of parliament to pass. The process starts at the National Assembly. To initiate a motion, the constitution sets the first threshold. An MP introducing it must have the support of at least 1/3 of members of the House. This translates to 117 of the 349 MPs that must sign a motion before it can be introduced. The MPs leading the process must state the charges against which he or she wants the deputy president impeached for. These are gross violation of the constitution where there are serious reasons for believing that the deputy president has committed a crime under the national or international law for gross misconduct. Get your copy of the Daily Nation this morning and just look at the intricate story there about what is required indeed to impeach the deputy president. It appears that the political scene has gone full-blown and it's bare-knuckled. And we also have a similar header on the Star this morning, but this one goes, Raila to get key job in Uhuru deal. Kalonzo and Gideon also expected to get a share of the government, which would soon be expanded to include the opposition. Pictured there is Gideon Moi and Kalonzo Musyoka, as well as the former Premier Raila Odinga. That's the headline we have this morning on the Star. And the story goes on to page 6. Just to have a sneak peek as to what is going on that particular page. It's actually on page 6. We have 5 possible replacements for defiant Jubilee senators. They are facing disciplinary measures after they failed to attend Uhuru's meeting. That is what is happening in the political scene. Seemingly, someone is whipping up support and doing away with the defiant members. Now, the Raila to lead post-COVID economic recovery. Yeah. The outfit will be called the Multi-Agency Economic Recovery Team and will be under the office of the president. Details therein contained on page 6 to 7. And as far as politics is concerned, so much is happening. Get your copy of the Star and the Daily Nation to just follow up on what is happening in the political scene.
Now, with me, I also have a copy of the Standard newspaper, and we have a similar story on the deputy president on the Standard. And on that front page, we have how Ruto lost Jubilee to Uhuru. Failed course. The deputy president's men made a series of political and legal blunders that cost him key posts and will, with it, a chance to be the party's flag bearer in the next election. Pictured there, we have a photo of the Jubilee Secretary General Raphael Tuju and the Jubilee Deputy Secretary General Caleb Kositan. And according to the numbers, 5 is the number of officials President nominated to the party's top organ, effectively locking out the DP. And 14 is the number of days that the DP Ruto camp had to file a complaint with the party and which have since lapsed. Well, more of that story is covered inside the newspaper. And just to give us a sneak peek on that, it is covered on on 2 pages. Blunder that may cost DP Jubilee's presidential ticket. DP's camp has lost fights to stop appointments to powerful organ that will determine ruling party's flag bearer in 2022. President Uhuru Kenyatta's nominees to the National Management Committee are set to assume office. But remember, in the Senate, we have the new Senate Majority Senate Whip, that is the Senator Irungu Kangata, who yesterday convened a meeting of all Jubilee senators to whip them into helping secure the 2/3 majority needed to remove Kindiki. That is the deputy speaker. He is yet to be there is a plan to remove him. And on the other page, Paul losers say it's payback time for Ruto in Jubilee war. Paul losers say it's payback time for Ruto in Jubilee war. Leaders claim DP had a hand in their defeat in Jubilee nominations designed to install his political allies.
Indeed, turbulent time in the political scene. We have a detailed report there where the newly installed Senate leadership is promising a reinvigorated drive to have the government agenda prioritized in Parliament. After the appointment to spearhead government business in the Senate last week, Majority Leader Samuel Pogisha says uncertainty that has recently characterized government agenda in the House will be a thing of the past, as the new team is only committed to ensure the government delivers on its mandate. The West Pokot Senator further defends the coalition agreement between KANU and the ruling Jubilee Party, noting that this was informed by the need to solidify President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. Our reporter Gladys Mugai reports.
Following his successful replacement of Kipchumba Murkomen as Senate Majority Leader, the new man at the helm says his priority in the House is to hoist government agenda, whose thrusts have been heavily impacted within the ruling Jubilee Party. West Pokot Senator Samuel Pogisio claims although his entry was met by mixed reactions, he will begin by trying to build bridges in the seemingly divided Senate to ensure smooth running of the House.
That animosity has to kind of go down, because we now need everybody to support this agenda. So I know the circumstances. I understand fully the politics behind it. But the fact that we are now there, that I'm already there now as leader, I can quickly work to make sure that that's not a permanent situation.
He claims the pact between KANU and Jubilee Party was informed by the need to have the ruling party deliver on its mandate, particularly after camps arose in the outfit, threatening to derail President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy.
Now we have a president who is leading this country, and we want to give him support during his time. And then let the matters of 2022 come when it's time to do that. Once we've done the right legal framework, put it properly, for the country to take off to any direction, I think we should focus now on the things that the president has put ahead of us.
While pouring cold water to claims of succession politics at play, Pogisio refuted that the post-election coalition government agreement was part of KANU's 2022 game plan to revive its political fortunes.
So KANU comes in with the numbers, and other political parties are joining in with the numbers, because now, and that's why we have to build this thing, until we have such a strong coalition, until we have healed all the wounds and have come back, we still have some people who are not yet very supportive, of their own coalition, and that's very, very difficult to understand.
Details of the Jubilee KANU pact coming at a time when Musalia Mudavadi dismissed reports to the effect that his party ANC is gearing up for a coalition deal with the ruling outfit. Instead, Mudavadi says ANC is still a member of NASA coalition, which has never been invalidated, even as he maintained that a political party cannot legally be in multiple coalitions at the same time. He insists his party remains in opposition and will continue to play its part in holding government to account. For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Now, still keeping up with what is happening on the political scene, but now focusing on the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. The headline there, wrong results 3 years later. Captured there is embattled commissioner there. And should the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission be trusted with running another election? No, according to leaders who criticized the agency over errors in the 2017 election results published on its website before being hurriedly pulled down. I don't know if you got to look at the results, but clearly there were some serious errors, and Twitter was abuzz yesterday and the day before yesterday, just before these particular results were actually pulled off. Now, just to get some information in regard to that issue, is that glaring errors in the results of the August 8th, 2017 general election published on the website of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission have kept up a storm, with leaders calling for a reorganization of the commission before the proposed referendum and the 2022 general election. The commission hurriedly pulled down the results, citing typographical errors, but not before several individuals had accessed the information and spotted the inconsistencies. It took 3 years to verify and upload that particular data. For instance, they are quoted is Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., and ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna called for the reorganization of the commission before the referendum. Quoted there, Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. says, what is coming out is unfortunate and lends credence to the doubts of mismanagement at IEBC. One of the political leaders allied to the Deputy President William Ruto, that is Oscar Sudi, was quoted, has been quoted saying that it's a high time they revisit the issue of the IBC server and have it just investigated, or rather open it, so that we can clarify. The same story has also been captured on the Star this morning, and this one reads that typos and more, 2017 poll ghost trail IBC as data exposes errors. Now the commission recalls the data posted on its website there. Embattled IBC former chairman there, Wafula Chebukati. And it says that the data had glaring mix-ups with candidates, even figures either way below or above which was declared at the constituency tallying center. In one case, IBC indicated that Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu won on Kalonzo Musyoka's Wiper ticket. Ngilu was elected on her NARC party ticket. Those glaring mix-ups there, that is what has caused an uproar in regard to the IBC. And we have a detailed report there prepared by our reporter Safin Omar Cheng. How about we just get the details?
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission once again found itself on the spotlight soon after uploading the 2017 general election data. The Commission had termed the exercise as a move meant to conform with the Constitution, which obligates the state to provide such information to the public. But the report will become a subject of a heated debate online, which saw the Commission being trolled for a better part of Sunday over what was termed as glaring errors in the report, which was being released 3 years after the 2017 general election. In what appeared to be an admission of the errors, the Commission took to its Twitter account to recall the document and explain that the typographical errors were occasioned by the massive data, adding that the corrected version would be uploaded and shared in due course. In some of the glaring errors pointed out in the report, the late Kibra MP Ken Okoth, as well as Suba North Member of Parliament Millie Odhiambo, were listed as having lost in the 2017 general election. In Kibra, the data shows that Judah Martin Okoth won the Kibra seat with 66,914 votes against Ken Okoth's 5,996 votes. For Suba North, the data indicates that Noah Onyango Odhiambo won the parliamentary seat with 27,208 votes against Millie's 65 votes. The MP was among irate social media users who reacted to the errors as contained in the IEBC's document. For Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Aching Oma.
Now, the workers who went on strike yesterday to protest unpaid dues for the past 9 months are drawn from the city's 85 wards and has been engaging in beautification programs and garbage collection activities. That is the story there. And towards the other page, jobs. Only innovative thinkers will survive. There might be a silver lining on to the pandemic for workers who are joining the job market. This is in regards to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Hard times. Economy will shed more than 500,000 jobs in the coming 6 months as the coronavirus pandemic continues to batter the economy, leading to loss of thousands of jobs. Companies must come up with innovative ways to survive during these turbulent times. And pictured there, we have workers from Ruaraka industrial area who are crossing a bridge at Outer Ring. So those are that is the effects of the COVID-19 to the economy. But in other news, there is a story of a man who glued his wife. Well, that's the story covered on the Standard. He assaulted her as their 3-year-old son watched. The suspect is said to have ordered the woman to name all the men that she was with while he was in Nairobi. This man, remember, was identified as James Kifo, He's said to have returned home after a long sojourn in Nairobi and attacked his wife when he came back. The two are now worlds apart. The traumatized woman evacuated by her relatives to safety in Nyandarua, while the man she once loved is on the run after allegedly sealing her.
Right, before I move to matters COVID-19, this morning on the People's Daily, there's also a similar story on what Governor Mike Sonko will do for the casual workers, where it says that we'll pay arrears. Sonko assures casual workers. So the Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko yesterday appealed to casual workers to be patient and assured them his administration will clear their 3-month wage arrears. Sonko said the county owes the employees arrears of 62 million to be paid once the supplementary budget is passed by the county assembly. So the governor is urging casual workers to just be patient a little bit. Their money will be paid to them. There's also another story on matters to do with corruption again, where City Hall staff fined 1.2 million Kenyan shillings for bribery. Nairobi County Governor liquor licensing officials have been fined a total of 1.2 million for soliciting a bribe worth 12,000. The Milimani Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi ruled that there was enough evidence to convict Benedict Kivuva and Lucy Wanjiru Mbugwa on the offense of corruption. So if you thought you're only grappling with floods, coronavirus, there's still matters with corruption that we still are grappling with as a country. Now, to matters coronavirus this morning, so sanitizer company permits suspended, where the Kenya Bureau of Standards has suspended permits for 7 brands of hand sanitizers for failing to meet the required specifications. KEB said it will continue to undertake market surveillance, and substandard products found will be seized for destruction at the expense of the owner, in addition to any other legal action as provided by the law. And also this article has well stipulated the kind of sanitizers that have been banned that have been suspended by the Kenya Bureau of Statistics. There's also a similar story on matters corona this morning, where the caption reads, will not relent on border surveillance, says a man. And it says that the government said yesterday it will continue to tighten its surveillance at border points to mitigate the spread of coronavirus, even as it warned that the transmission of the disease from Tanzania was still at high. So the Chief Administrative Secretary, Dr. Rashid Aman, said the number of persons, particularly truck drivers, who recently tested positive for COVID, calls for scaling up of testing strategies, and this is at the border points. We also have the numbers stipulated this morning as of now for where we stand as a country, where it's at 912 cases, and this is after 25 new people tested positive in the last 24 hours. And again, also the number of males surpassed the number of females.
With matters COVID-19 as it is, this is a developing issue and it's not going away anytime soon, just as the Ministry of Health said and has continued to say that we need to continue being a little bit more vigilant and sticking with the measures. There's a question here. COVID-19 fired, Kenyans going back to bad habits. A worrying trend of indifference in observing the public health guidelines to contain the spread of coronavirus appeared to be creeping in among Kenyans as most people gradually return to their daily activities. Stories continued on page 2 there, with details detailing that most with masks are not covering their mouths and noses as required. That's an observation that has been made. Now we cross over to the issue of COVID, but now keeping up with the issue of how safe our borders are. To add to what Doreen has pointed out in the People Daily, is that cases have risen to 912 and 53 truckers were blocked at the Tanzania borders. Now the 53 truck drivers were blocked from entering Kenya after they tested positive for coronavirus at various border points with Tanzania. Health Chief Administrative Secretary Rashid Aman, quoted there, says that the 33, who included 51 Tanzanians and 2 Burundians, were all sent back to Tanzania. The news came even as Kenya recorded 25 more cases, now that brought the total to 912. Further on, that story has also been captured on the Daily Nation this morning. They're at the board, and the question now is, COVID, how prepared is your county? We know that government has been focusing on several measures across the country, including curfew and cessation and in and out in hotspot counties there. But now, how safe is your county? Story is detailed on page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation. And in my quote is that the national government has also effected measures to restrict movement in Nairobi, Kwale, Mombasa, Kilifi and Manyara counties. However, some counties including Wajir, Taita Taveta and Kajiado are emerging to be hotspots. Now that's another issue that we have emerging other hotspots. We don't know what turn it's going to take. But now there's a health capacity index that has shown how safe counties are. You want to find out how safe your county is? Well, the report has ranked Lamu, Elgeyo Marakwet, Tana River, Kajiado, Isiolo, and Samburu as the safest. Yeah, because of a high score on the health capacity index based on high scores of healthcare facilities and health workers relative to its population size. So now, how about we get a detailed report about how our counties are taking up the issue, or how safe our counties are in terms of how they're dealing with the virus. That is both the national and the county government organizations and individuals have intensified efforts aimed at containing the spread of COVID-19 disease that continues to wreak havoc across the globe. We focus now on Machakos County, a report by our reporter Beatrice Gatonye.
The country has witnessed intensified efforts to contain the spread of coronavirus amid rising positive cases. Machakos County Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua Monday receiving thousands an assortment of food and hand sanitizers from various companies and industries mostly based in Machakos to cushion residents from the adverse effects attributed by COVID-19 pandemic.
Watu wamepoteza kazi na nawaomba wale ambao wanaandika watu kazi, wale ambao wana kampuni, wana duka, wana factory, tafadhali tusiwafute watu kazi. Najua hakuna biashara. Afadhali tuwalipe nusu ya mshahara walikuwa unapata ama hata kwota ya mshahara bala ya kumfuta mtu kazi. Kwa sababu kimfuta kazi anaenda wapi? Na hii ni Kenya. Na corona itakuja, itaenda. Kwa sababu hiyo ni kuongeza umaskini.
In the meantime, Kwale-based Australian mining firm-based Titanium has stepped up its food distribution program during the coronavirus pandemic to cushion vulnerable households. Based Titanium Community Relations Manager Pius Kasim says the supplies are meant to sustain vulnerable families impacted by the ongoing pandemic.
Hakikisha kwamba kama una cha ziada, kama ni kilo 2, kama ni kilo 3 za unga, za mahindi, za maharagwe, umemsaidia jirani yako ambaye yuko karibu na wewe. Na utakuja kukuta dunia yote, Kenya yote, kaunti zote tumefaidiana kwa kirahisi.
Elsewhere, Ijoro Member of Parliament Sophia Abdunur has donated foodstuff worth 1 million shillings and 500,000 cash to support needy residents of her constituency during the holy month of Ramadan. Political leaders in Samburu County have devised ways to help members of the clergy and other vulnerable faithful during the COVID-19 pandemic period. Samburu West Member of Parliament Naisula Lesuda says the group has been suffering after places of worship were closed due to coronavirus outbreak in the country.
Tunajua kwamba saa hizi makanisa imefungwa, pastors wetu pia wanaumia, washiriki wao pia wanaumia, kuna wale ambao ni vulnerable. Tutasaidia mapastors wetu kwa wale ambao hawajiwezi wakati huu mgumu.
And Mombasa Women Empowerment Network Chairperson Amina Abdallah is urging well-wishers to assist them in their campaign of collecting the mentally ill from the streets of Mombasa as a preventive measure against COVID-19. The initiative has seen over 15 mentally ill persons picked from the streets and taken to the health facilities for testing and subsequent hospitalization and treatment.
Na wagonjwa wote 30 wanakula asubuhi saa 6 na jioni. Kwa hivyo natafuta mpaka nasikia kama kichwa changu hata mimi nitakuwa wazimu very soon. Kwa sababu lazima wale vizuri, na anapokula dawa anakula chakula kingi zaidi. Kwa hivyo naomba well wishers wajitokeze tusaidiane.
Beatrice Gatonye-Ngetich, Channel 1 News.
Still sticking with matters COVID-19, this is what different sectors are doing to assist the government stem the spread of this disease. One is the Kenya pipeline, where they donate 24,000 liters of hand sanitizers for public use. And so the Kenya Pipeline Company, KBC, has said it will give 24,000 liters of government hand sanitizers to National Youth Council to be distributed for free to vulnerable members of society as the war against COVID-19 continues. So this is just in a bid to help the most vulnerable persons in the society, and this ultimately means people living probably in the informal settlements and even the rural setups, at least for them to keep safe during this COVID-19 pandemic. Also, there's another story on how children are faring on during these tough times, and most children out of digital learning, where majority of Kenyan children have no access to digital learning, showing glaring disparities in home learning forced by this pandemic. This was a new report, and the report is by Usawa, a non-governmental organization, which shows that only 22% of children have access to learning through the internet. This is not even half of the percentage, because it's only 22%. There's also a bite here that says the learning crisis occasioned by coronavirus pandemic has brought to the fore wide gaps in digital learning platforms. Again, still sticking with the same issue this morning. Remember the issue of testing, not testing, but vaccines to be tested in Africa. Well, coronavirus, why Africans should take part in jab trials. And so now scientists say it is vital that Africans take part, arguing it could jeopardize efforts to find vaccine. It continues to say that there have been numerous scare stories about trials for coronavirus vaccine being carried out on people in Africa. However, scientists are now urging, and they're saying that it is vital that Africans also take part in these trials, arguing this could jeopardize efforts to find vaccine that works worldwide and not just for richer nations. So what they're saying is that if Africans don't take part, then it could jeopardize the efforts that they're trying to the efforts they're trying to put in place to find this vaccine. Now, there's also another story where coronavirus is going nowhere. Live with it. So if we thought that, probably tomorrow, next year, we might do away with this pandemic, well, it just seems that we need to find ways to live with it as it is here with us. So following the World Health Organization warning that COVID might be here to stay, it now boils down on options left to bring life back to normal, and at the same time, ensure the danger posed by this virus is minimized to safe levels. So far, close to 300,000 people worldwide have succumbed to this virus, with confirmed infections surging towards 4.5 million. Kenya alone has confirmed 912 positive cases, and this was by yesterday. So for many, it is therefore almost unthinkable to imagine a normal life with the virus living within us. So what the WHO is urging us is for us to find better ways to learn how to deal with this disease, because as it's done, it might just be here with us to stay.
We have a story on the new military boss, that is General Robert Kibochi. Well, our new military boss to sustain appetite for modern arms. General Kibochi will continue with the plan to modernize KDF, including acquisition of planes, vehicles, and weapons. The Chief of Defense Force, Robert Kibochi, walked to his new office at the Kenya Defense Forces headquarters last week, at the time the military is working to acquire new weaponry. Kenya rose to position 62 last year from 95 in countries spending on military arms. The past generals have also been highlighted, starting from General Bernard Penfold, who was there in 1966, all the way through to 1969, coming down through to General Samson Mwadede, who was there from 2015 to 2020 this year, where he left office, and General Kibochi was sworn in as the new Chief of Defense Force. He exuded confidence that with commitment and determination, the new military top brass led by General Kibochi will protect and defend the territorial integrity of Kenya. That is according to the President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Well, moving on to other stories this morning, we have one on yet another member of parliament that is trying to talk of the courts. We have ex-MP loses land grabbed from a farm. The state, which was a defendant, in the suit, said the respondents were legally allocated the land after it was acquired for lying idle. This is in regards to the land that is in court. The High Court in Mombasa has restored a prime beach property acquired by the Aga Khan family to a company that has lost it to powerful politicians and businessmen. The judge cancels allotment letters issued to 12 defendants. That is the story there on former Lunga Lunga Member of Parliament, Omar Zonga.
Now, focusing on matters of floods is that rains to continue until next month, says the Meteorological Department there. And the weatherman continues to note that Nairobi and central Kenya have been added to the list of regions that will continue receiving heavy rains into the next month. The Met Department yesterday said the coast and western regions will also experience ongoing heavy rains. The Meteorological Department Director Stella Rua said 30 counties will receive heavy rains in the next month. They include Nairobi, Kiambu, Nyeri, Nyandarua, Laikipia, Murang'a, and Tana River, as well as Kakamega, Bungoma, and Nyamira, Siaya, Nandi, Trans Nzoia, Uasin Gishu, Baringo, West Pokot, Turkana, Elgeyo Marakwet, Nakuru, Narok, Kericho, and Bomet. And further noted that Tana River will also experience flooding because of continued rains upstream in the Mount Kenya region. Now, this maybe has informed several county governments, especially in Rift Valley, to come up with interventions. Captured on the Daily Nation this morning is that residents of flood-prone areas in Rift Valley could get new homes. Now, Governor Lee Kenyanjui of Nakuru and Stanley Kaptis of Baringo say the only solution to the problem is to relocate people living near the lakes to higher ground. The two are planning to present a proposal to the National Assembly to the National Treasury to release funds to the Kenya Wildlife Service, the custodian of the major lakes and in the region, to enable them buy land for resettling the families. So they said that to buy the land, government land, to buy land in areas prone to flooding in their county and turn them into forests, and that move in that move the people living in these areas to higher grounds. Just one of the interventions that those flood-prone areas are taking now, with that confirmation by the Met Department. The 30 counties, including Kiambu there, Nairobi, as well as Elgeyo Marakwet and West Pokot, are going to continue receiving heavy rainfall going into the month. How about we have a comprehensive update on what damage has been caused by the current flash floods across the country by our reporter there, Caroline Kamau.
The ongoing heavy rains continue to leave a trail of destruction and deaths in its wake. Floods and mudslides that have been experienced in various parts of the country, negatively impacting the lives and livelihoods of vulnerable populations. Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Omalo, who was in Murang'a County for a fact-finding mission, saying that about 800,000 people have been affected since the onset of the rains, with Murang'a, Elgeyo Marakwet, West Pokot and Baringo among the most affected counties. Omalo says the government has already spent 1.3 billion shillings to support families affected by various disasters occasioned by heavy rains.
Kuanzia April mpaka May, zile pesa tumetumia kufikia sasa ni karibu 1.3 billion kwa chakula na vile non-food items. Kuna sehemu tumepeleka mahema, tumepeleka misaada mingine kusaidia zile familia ambazo malazi, kila kitu, nyumba zimebomoka, walipoteza. na tunaendelea hadi mwezi wa Julai. Baada ya mvua hii kwisha, bado tutaendelea kusaidia hizi familia zimeathirika.
And as the effects of the ongoing rains continue to be felt, there was a standoff in Lari's scheme location in Lari's sub-county of Kiambu, with area residents accusing their counterparts of Githuroine of digging a terrace at a local dam and redirecting water to the Lari scheme, forcing people out of their homes and farms due to flood waters. National and county government officials urgently responded to the issue and ordered the closure of the terrace as the government plans ways of draining the water.
Dam ijaa kama saa hii. Shida yetu ni hiyo jam kama ingejaa overflow yenyewe ingetoa maji mingi hivyo, ingetoa tu excess, ikuje tu polepole. Lakini saa hii kuna mwenye akona shamba hapo, yeye mwenyewe ndiye anaenda anakata hiyo maji over the influence ya watu wa pande nyingine. Watu wanataka maji itoke pande ile ndio iteremke wapi? Huku. Kisha hasara mingi sana. Hata wewe ukiangalia
And over 200 families affected by floods in Karachuonyo, Migori County, and currently camping at Bala Primary School fear contracting the coronavirus disease due to the poor conditions in the camping site. The families who were displaced after River Awach broke its banks are appealing to the government to find lasting solutions to the flooding problem.
Groups nyingi zimesimama hapa, wamewapea chakula, wamewapea mavazi, wamewapea nguo, lakini sasa wakitoka hapa yenye itafuata next baada hatujaambiwa tutaenda wapi.
In its weekly report, the Kenya Meteorological Department says parts of Lake Victoria Basin, the highlands west of Rift Valley, Central and South Rift Valley, that is Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay, Migori, Bomet, Kakamega and Busia counties, will continue receiving heavy rains. Most of the counties in the northeastern region, including Marsabit, Mandera, Wajir, Garissa and Isiolo counties are, however, forecast to remain dry. Caroline Kamar reporting for Channel 1 News.
There's also a similar story on Matters Flood this morning where it says that we've catered for all 800,000 flood victims, and it continues to say that the minister promises support from government to help construct new homes for the families in dire straits, where it also continues to say that the government has so far spent 1.3 billion to cater for families that have been affected by the heavy rains pounding various parts of the country. Away from Matters Floods and now to health services, and Governor Otichlo assents 2 bills to enhance health services. Vihiga Governor Wilbur Otichlo yesterday signed into law 2 bills aimed at boosting the provision of health services to residents, while signing the County Health Facilities Improvement Fund Bill 2019 and the Vihiga County Health Services Bill 2019 in his office. Otichlo said the bills provide a framework within which improvement of the status of health facilities in the county will be realized. So it's just matters of improving health facilities for the residents in that specific county. And even as that continues to unfold, KMPDU continues to cry over their unheard issues, and it says that hire staff now, union tells the state. So doctors yesterday decried the slow pace of employing healthcare workers in the wake of the increased cases of COVID. So the Kenya Medical Practitioners Pharmacist Acting Secretary General Chibazi Mwachoda, who has been pictured there, said that employment process for health workers had stalled even after being advertised. He said health workers were strained due to the rising numbers of COVID-19 cases, adding that more health workers continued to be quarantined as a result of exposure and contact to positive cases. KMPDU decrying that more health workers need to be employed, at least to stabilize the conditions there.
Now, to complement that particular story that has been highlighted on the People Daily is that our reporter Serafina Robi was on ground and had a conversation with the union's chair, Samuel Okoro, who says that medical practitioners remained deflated, working on the front line under demanding environment with little to show for their efforts. Here's a report.
A day after health workers postponed a planned nationwide strike, their counterparts from the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union have decried what they say is systematic neglect by the national and county governments. Union Chair Dr. Samuel Okoro singling out the withdrawal of the National Health Insurance Fund cover for their members at the county level, terming the move as unfair.
Every month, every doctor is deducted an amount of 1,700 from their payslip, which as KMBDU, we want to urge the Minister of Public Service, Treasury, and the Minister of Health to quickly move in and address this matter.
On the issues around non-service provision for those who are already contributing to NHIF, we don't have that information, but I can assure you that we will get. NHIF is within the ministry, is one of the sagas of the ministry. We will be able to ask immediate today to be able to understand. But
with the country having crossed the 800 mark in confirmed COVID-19 cases, the union now wants the government to kickstart the stalled employment of more health workers.
The employment process has stalled. The advertisements were closed over 3 weeks ago. There is no movement, there is no communication, no doctors have not undergone any interviews as we speak. And the health workers on the ground are strained to a level where they are just trying their best to ensure that they give the service.
Among key challenges they want addressed include salary delays, poor working conditions and availability of quality and adequate protective gears, as well as establishment of a welfare service. The Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Unions now expect the two levels of government to step up and address the myriad of challenges that the sector faces. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Sarafina Robe.
Now, this morning I will be with the chairman of the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union. He will be joining me live to give us his take regards to that story and what his proposals are, what led to this. Remember, the health workers were supposed to strike. They were to strike, and yesterday they called it off. What does that mean moving forward? We'll be putting that into perspective in a bit. Now, still on the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a family that has been affected, and they are featured here. The agony of missing a kin's burial due to pandemic rules. With 48 hours to bury their loved ones and not more than 15 mourners, restrictions to prevent further disease spread have left many of those bereaved traumatized. Now, several tests are normally made when it comes to this, especially when it comes to burials. And according to the family, the Eva Bosibori went to see a doctor last week. She had been experiencing changes in her sleep patterns. Sometimes she would wake up in a panic, and so much more. Her heart racing and chest feeling like someone had placed something heavy on it. And several days later, tests were done. Medics would not find anything wrong with the Bosibori until they discovered something. Less than a week before the panic attack began, Bosibori's sister has suddenly died of high blood pressure complications. But now many suffer mental disturbance as they fail to give their relatives a befitting send-off or get closure. These are the effects of the COVID-19 agony as missing a kin's burial due to pandemic rules when she died and they could not be able to attend that burial. Well, in other stories covered also in the newspaper, we'll head over to the courts and to give you a story on, to keep you up to date with what's happening with the Kibor. Kibor disowns his son after beating them in court case. 2 years after divorcing his third wife, 88-year-old politician and farmer vows to have DNA tests conducted before his estranged wife's children inherit his property. This man Kibor, details about him highlighted there, including when in March 2017 when he was charged in an Eldoret court with attempting to shoot his son and interfering with police investigation. Judge rules in favor of veteran member of parliament in 1,250-acre land battle.
Now, we have that particular story also captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. There is that Kibor floors sons in battle over land. So you can get more details on that. It's on page 9 of the Daily Nation. That is, if you ask me, Ram, that's quite a resilient man there. And quoted there, quoted there says, "I drew the gun only because my life was in danger since he approached me armed with a machete." Quoted there is Jackson's Kibor. So you can read that story there that explains about, his bid to just wrestle or secure his land against, his children. And he said now, following that, he has divorced his other wife, Miss Josephine Japkoech Kibor, who is 69, the same year, accusing her of influencing her children to gang up and rise against him. That's a story that has been fleshed out for you on page 9. So yesterday we had matches in the sporting arena. Much to the delight of soccer lovers world over is that the Bundesliga has set the pace. Indeed, games were held yesterday. We'll be looking at the results. You may remember, you can find the results on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke, on the sports section. Now, just saying that that was the first indoor game, football game, and one of the experts quoted there, and I'm going to read that, is that any trash, that is a German footballer expert, Konstantin Ecker, who was at Eintracht Frankfurt's 3-1 defeat by Borussia, said some people were even fitted with tracking devices. This is how COVID has changed every aspect of human life. What we considered normal is no longer the new normal. Now, as if that the Bundesliga has already set the pace in as far as soccer is concerned, is that Spanish clubs begin training as La Liga eyes June restart. Yes, those people who've missed those particular teams there, we have Barcelona, Juventus, Real Madrid. Well, if everything goes by the numbers here in the Spanish La Liga, is that the ideal date is June 12th, where Javier Tebas has chosen for matches to return, but admitted the exact timing will depend on the health authorities in Spain and the trajectory of the virus. That is today. Barcelona confirmed that their squad will be back on the training ground. That is around 9:30 a.m. And the video and pictures are going to be put on their Twitter handle. So if you want to see your favorite soccer players they're playing for Barcelona, well, you need to get on that particular platform. That happens to be Twitter. Go to their particular page. 9:30 is the time where they're supposed to start their training. This is under new regulations in light of COVID-19. We take a short break and move over to look at how traffic is looking at exactly 8 a.m. this morning. Has it changed? Do we have snarl-ups? We understand that it is business as usual, but does that translate to how our roads are looking? A short break, then we come back with the traffic updates. Do not go away.
Tonight on Corner.
I just recently found out Abasi holds bare knuckle fights at his club, the Gentleman Only Night.
What has this got to do with Jemo?
Jemo is fighting for Abasi.
That man never ceases to amaze me.
Sometimes you have to lay a trap and wait. I have a plan. Let me action it.
Next on.
I wish I could tell Father that Brother Sushim has become the greatest warrior through deception, not through his ability. He has broken the rules at every stage. How can such a person become the heir to the throne? Should I tell the truth? But will anyone believe me over here?
Have you seen Ashok somewhere?
No. Even we are searching for him. I wonder where he has gone the last time.
Couple of minutes past 8 a.m. and we continue looking out for you the situation on our roads this morning. We are still sticking with Juju Road, and this was the roundabout I was showing you earlier, which is again one of the alternative routes. Remember, I had told you that in our next link up segment, which is now, I'll be giving you some of the alternative routes for those that are applying Juju Road, because as it looks like for this week and for the past couple of weeks, traffic has really been witnessed on major roads in the city center, and this is one of those roads. So this is just next to Mlango Kubwa roundabout. This is one of the roundabouts that was reconstructed in this road in a bid to just at least make it more passable and make it more easy for pedestrians. Again, it also serves as an alternative route, and this is for people that are coming from Outer Ring Superhighway and may want to go to Thika Road, but because sometimes the traffic snarl up, especially around the Outer Ring Road, then they branch off to Juja Road, come through this roundabout and branch off again from this roundabout, connecting all the way to Thika Road. So this is one of the alternative routes, especially if you're going to Thika Road, and also if you're coming to city center and you don't want to make do with the traffic around Pangani intersection, because that is another place where the traffic's normally unbearable in this morning hour. That is the Pangani intersection. So that means if you're coming from Outer Ring Road, if you're coming from Juja Road and you want to go to the city center, or you want to go to Thika Superhighway and you do not want to make do the traffic, especially around the Pangani intersection, then this can be one of the alternative routes as you go to those places. And looking at how this specific place looks like in this morning hour, where you're seeing the green is the lane that leads you to Thika Road, as well as you branch off coming to the city center. And clearly on that lane, there's no traffic at all. This is what this green color indicates right here. There's no traffic at all. So this can really be a good route because there's nothing looking like traffic on that specific area. On the other lane, though, this is the one that is coming from the estates along Mlango Kubwa, as well as coming from Thika Road, coming through the roundabout, going all the way to Juja Road. On that other lane, there's traffic, yes, but moving, at least it's moving at a pretty fast pace. So that is what the orange color normally indicates, that yes, traffic has just begun to slightly build up, but then again, it is also manageable. Now, if I may just stick with this roundabout a little bit, it's unlike what you normally see on major roundabouts, because oftentimes on major roundabouts, we will see more of the red color and even sometimes maroon, which is an indicator that there's traffic moving at a really slow pace or even at a standstill. But around this specific roundabout, yes, there's traffic, but moving at a fast pace. But also, what I may want to tell you is that, again, this is one of those roundabouts that also the traffic police are normally stationed, in the early morning hours to just see how best they can control traffic, because also, again, people are heading back to their businesses. Activities are going back to normal and as usual. So we just need the traffic police to just try and see how best they can control traffic. But leaving that roundabout, still sticking with Juja Road, coming all the way to the Pangani intersection, going all the way to Thika Road and coming to the city center, moving at a really fast pace. On specific areas of this road, that's just where we're really spotting traffic. And even in as much as, yes, there's a bit of traffic, but it's also moving at a fast pace. Again, that is what that color indicates, the orange color. And this is just next to Asmara Pangani place, where there's just a bit of traffic. But also on this specific area where you're seeing this traffic on this specific place next to the Tropical restaurant, it is also a bus terminus. I keep telling you all the time when you're doing this link is that in places where there are bus terminus or in places where they're stationed with major businesses, this is how we'd expect the road to be looking like, at least a bit of a snarler, because it is a bus terminus, so the kind of activities going on around there. I just want us to briefly look at the Pangani intersection, which again also serves as a good alternative route for Thika Road users as you're coming to the city center. On this intersection, there's really no much traffic. Like how we'd spot, especially in this early morning hour, on major parts of the intersection, moving at a pretty fast pace, just slight snarl up as you branch off from Juja Road through the intersection coming to the city center. That's just where there's a slight traffic snarl up. But on major parts of this specific road, really moving at a pretty fast pace. So that means if you're coming from Thika Road, again, and you may not want to make do with the traffic around Thika Superhighway, especially when you get next to Ngara, this might just be the good alternative routes. That's that in terms of traffic this morning. So we want to move to our first discussion this morning, and that is on our segment, Women at the Forefront, and I'll be speaking to Ms. Miriam Sidibe. She'll be talking to us about the role of corporate organizations in curbing COVID-19. Many thanks, Ms. Miriam Sidibe, for making time this morning. Let's just get straight into it. What exactly is the role of corporate organizations in curbing COVID-19?
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Ms. Miriam, I can hear you loud and clear, and I just want to pose the question to you to tell us exactly what corporate organizations are doing to assist the government curb COVID-19.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot that corporate organizations can do and businesses can do in terms of curbing COVID-19. And I think one of the key platforms that we've established, at least in Kenya, which is now being seen as a blueprint for the rest of Africa, is the establishment of the National Business Compact, which is a platform of collaborations for businesses, with the UN family as well as non-governmental organizations. And I'm very privileged to be chairing that. I think the key areas in which we're seeing corporates coming in is blending in what they're doing in terms of their core businesses, as well as bringing in some philanthropy and engaging obviously with government and policy engagement to make sure that we are not only responding immediately today to the stress that's being posed to the populations by making sure that, one, we are communicating properly, that we're being very responsible with the way we're communicating and marketing, and then two, that we are distributing and ensuring that hygiene essential products as well as eventually food gardens, food parcels and kitchen gardens are being established. And then finally, fundraising as well, so that we can respond to some of the emergency requests that might be coming in as well from government, which we will be able to give a clear response to as well, such as assisting people in quarantine. Last week, we sent a group of doctors as well to Manyara for testing. So these are the kind of activities which businesses can organize themselves and not only put their resources in terms of cash, but also put their human capital to work so that we can, together put all our resources, mind and resources and cash to the table in terms of curbing COVID-19.
All right, Ms. Sidibe, just hanging there, let's listen to what the CS had to say in regards to what you do as a person. Take a look.
Just met William Sidibe. Apparently, she is probably the only PhD in hand washing that you have ever seen.
PhD in hand washing, Ms. Sidibe. What's your take on that?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. It was a very impromptu meeting outside of the Ministry of Health where I'd gone in to discuss a bit of what we're trying to do with NBC and design hand washing programs. Yes, so I have a doctorate in public health from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and I did focus my research on hand washing with soap, and I spent the last 20 years thinking about hand washing with soap. 15 of those I did out of a corporate, out of Unilever, and I basically led hand washing for the world's largest soap manufacturer, which is Unilever. So I think for me, a PhD in hand washing is something that we can all achieve at the moment. I think it's important that we all get to a point where we're all practicing hand washing frequently. I think we all recognize and realize that until a vaccine is available, prevention is the only way we can avoid a tragedy in Africa and beyond, actually, and that hand washing with soap remains the best line of defense when it comes to COVID-19 and further the spread of infection. So for me, yeah, so exactly. So that's a little bit about my background, but I can tell you a bit more.
All right, very well put. But your major responsibility at NBCC is on matters to do with water, sanitation, and hygiene. Tell us more.
So I chair the NBCC, and I'm a co-founder, obviously, of the National Business Compact as well. And I'm very proud of what we've been able to do. In less than 8 weeks, we have managed to develop an unbranded campaign that has been, that's been going on almost everywhere. We've reached over 45% of all Kenyan households, with Commercial Corona, and you might have seen some of our ads with the senator, with Jugush, with Jared Bugua, with Jinadine, with quite a lot of, with Teacher Wanjiku, and basically making sure that there is mass awareness in the populations. And we've reached over 1.8 million households. And, you might have seen also our billboards all across the country as well, and our radio communications. And I think, one of the key things that we've been doing beside communication is also ensuring that we are distributing hygiene products that, obviously hand washing facilities is absolutely key in getting people to wash their hands with soap. And we know that the evidence is very clear. If you put people in front of soap, water, and a place to wash their hands, hand washing behavior increases by over 60%. So that is the ultimate goal that we're trying to get to, is to get to a point where we can enable people to practice the behavior in their homes and outside of their homes. And I think that's the critical element here that we're trying to really target. And I think also the other part that's really important is to be able to be agile and stay very responsive to some of the demands that exist. Whether it is about, pulling in and tracking some water when it's required, or making sure that the hand washing facilities is responding to the demands of the populations, keeping in mind, either the elderly, the disabled, and the children as well. I think ultimately what we want to do with NBC is to limit the spreads of infection and protect lives and livelihoods in Kenya and beyond in Africa as well. I think it becomes really important that this is a place where we can put together the best of what philanthropy and core businesses can do, where our communication practices as well as the resources that are coming in from CSR and philanthropy can come together, create an enabling environment, and continue pushing the messages as well from a marketing perspective. Because I think that's absolutely critical that everybody is thinking along the same lines when we're talking about COVID-19. Yeah.
Okay. So even as you talk about hand washing, and based on your credentials, tell us the importance of following the proper guidelines in terms of hand washing.
Well, I think the importance of hand washing with soap is that you do it frequently. I think ultimately that is the most important. Of course, I can talk to you about the 7 steps and, rubbing in between your fingernails and your fingertips, and not forgetting your wrists. I think your wrists, for example. I think this is all very important. But I think what's important at this stage is that we practice it as frequently as possible. Every 1 hour, your hands get recontaminated by something that you might have touched. So washing your hands as frequently as every hour is very important. And then the fact that each other can be monitoring our behaviors, just making sure that you're asking the person next to you, have you washed your hands lately? Are you washing your hands regularly? I think it's a really important habit, and we need to normalize and celebrate hand washing with soap today. And a regular hand hygiene, as well as are you wearing your masks, it's a cool thing to do. It's the right thing to do. You not only protect yourself, but you protect others, which I think is a really important element of compassion and empathy that we need to translate and share with everybody at the moment.
All right. Also, there's that question of, if I sanitize my hands throughout the entire day, I don't need to wash them in the evening when I get home. Let me pick your mind on that.
No, you need to wash your hands. The first line of defense is washing hands with soap. Washing hands with soap is the most effective way to keep your hands clean. So I think that people need to recognize, with water and soap. Now, if you're out and about and you haven't seen a hand washing facility, you're not seeing running water, then yes, please, by all means, use a sanitizer that has at least 60% alcohol content. But sanitizer does not replace washing hands with soap. And I think it's really important that people recognize and realize that. Even though it is very handy to have it in your bag and to make sure that if you're out and about, that you can keep your hands sanitized. But yes, I would say the first thing that you do when you come home is to wash your hands with soap and water, to make sure that you are truly clean hands are actually using soap and water.
Okay. Again, there's also that question of water shortage, especially here in Nairobi. And one may want to ask, when I get access to this water, which is my priority? To wash my hands to keep safe, to drink the water to quench my thirst? Your mind on that? How do you draw the line?
Well, water is life, right? I mean, we can't live without drinking, so that's absolutely critical.
Yeah.
In simple public health terms, obviously water quantity is much more important than just water quality, in the sense that practicing hygiene is the most important and the fundamentals when it comes to public health and reduction of child mortality, or and we've now seen it as well with COVID-19, how important hygiene and hand washing is at the moment. But you cannot, the question should never be between should I drink a glass of water or should I wash my hands? I think that's a really very difficult question, because people will be drinking before they wash their hands. I think it's our responsibility, and this is where we need to come together to make sure that people somehow recognize or realize how little water it takes to wash your hands regularly, but it is an important element. And on that day, you need to create the environment in which they will be able to do that. And if that means at this moment, waiving some of the water bills, or thinking about ways in which they can have access to more running water or hand washing facilities that is, practical and available and not expensive within their homes. I think this is what we need to continue thinking about, because one should not have to choose between, drinking water or washing your hands with soap. That's very, very important to remember.
All right. Again, also in the aspect of even post-COVID-19, do you feel like basic hygiene will still continue to be practiced?
We've seen in other sort of not pandemics but epidemics like SARS that the moment that or cholera, for example, that the moment that the threat is gone, that people go back to their regular habits. And the regular habits is that the average rates around the world of hand washing with soap outside of COVID-19 is about 19%, which means 4 people out of 5 can come out of the toilet without washing their hands. So, I sure hope that, and this is one of the view of the NBC, is that what we're thinking about is long-term behavior change habits. So what do you do that will ensure that we stay connected in the future, and that we make sure that we're putting in place not only the right policy, but the right infrastructure, and that we're keeping in mind that whatever we're putting in place today needs to continue for the longer term, because hygiene is not it's a must. It's a life-saving habit. It's the only vaccines we have, not only for COVID-19, for many other preventable diseases, whether it's diarrhea, respiratory infections, pneumonia. And I think it's absolutely critical, or eye infection, that we keep hygiene at the forefront of the conversation. And I sure hope that NBC, as a mechanism and as a way to deliver, will continue in the future thinking about longer-term infrastructure building, and as well as thinking about what are the kind of partnerships that one could do with water utilities, with different different ministries as well, in a way that we will be able to carry out these programs longer term, and also for making sure that we reach the furthest behind, obviously first.
All right. And also, what makes it so difficult to implement measures such as social distancing, basic hygiene here in the African continent compared to first world countries?
Well, I think number one, we need to think about where people are living, right? If you're living in a very densely placed, and it's very difficult, and you've got 10 to 12 people that you have to share a common area with, it becomes extremely difficult, quasi impossible for you to practice physical distancing. And therefore the use of masks become even more important. But then there's a lot of questions around the kind of hygiene that one needs to have when wearing the masks, because you don't want the mask to be a breeding ground for virus and disease as well. So I think, and the other, so I think there's one where people live is a very important part, where they spend their day. I think the second part is how much of our economy is driven by the informal sector, right? And the fact that people have to go out there every day to make a living, to feed themselves, and some of these jobs require you to be able to be maybe in close proximity, and I think this is very difficult when it comes to physical distancing, social distancing as we call it. But I think there are some key elements, and this is where it becomes important to make sure that there are hand washing points everywhere, that every time you turn your head, you can at least practice your hand hygiene, and that you can wear your mask. I think those two are very possible at any point in time, and I think we should try as much as possible to encourage not only people to do that, but also to give great incentives to do that, because I think you are protecting others and you are protecting yourself. And I think that is the key of basic hygiene at the moment.
All right. Now, coming back to what you do as corporate organizations, what kind of measures have you put in place to ensure that street kids can also be taken care of in terms of them keeping safe during this pandemic time?
That's a very good point. It is not one that we've actually that we haven't done much about, to be honest. I think we've established hotspots that have been identified by the governments across the country, which includes marketplaces, which will be there, but we haven't done specific focus on street kids. And I think it's a very important element that you bring into the table, which I'll make sure that the team and I review and see what else can be done, because I think it is absolutely critical. And I would say, obviously, in a time like this, it's not only the hygiene part, it's also about the nutrition, because the immunity level that you build by having good food will ensure that you can fight the virus, because it's, at the end of the day, it is a virus, and it's, most people recover from it if they have a good immunity and if they take care of themselves and as well. So I think it's basically going back to the basics of a fair and right society where everybody has access to decent housing, decent food, and obviously is capable of practicing decent hygiene. So I think we definitely need to think about what we are doing here about street kids. To be honest, we haven't done much specific. We've just been focusing on getting hand washing facilities out there in the open areas, in the hotspots. But we need to make sure that maybe there is more focus around that.
All right, so you haven't done much as corporates in regards to such kind of kids. But from where you sit, what more do you think the government can do to cater for such kind of kids?
Well, I think, like I said, I think something about nutrition programs and food security in those areas is absolutely critical. Identifying, of course, where they're living and just making sure that they get a chance to practice also the decent hygiene is absolutely critical. I do think, and I've been thinking about this as well when it comes to disabled, because, or differently able, as we say it, just thinking about, if you are blind or like, how do you get access? And I'm on the board of Kilimanjaro Blind Trust. And, and I think about, like what happens when you are disabled, you cannot see, and you need to practice some of these behaviors as well, and you have to go in public. What's the best way to do this? What kind of special nudges can we put in place that will guide some of these differently abled people as well, or people in wheelchair? I think the point at the moment is that we are all thinking about solutions, and that there is ways in which together we can help. I think making sure that we the clarity is around making sure that everybody has access. Now, how do we do that? Is about making sure that, of course, some of the facilities are kept maybe for that specific target of the populations, but also very much around making sure that we put their needs first. I think it's going to be absolutely critical.
All right, and also with what you do at the Business Coalition, have you managed to reach persons in the informal setups and even in the rural setups, at least to get assistance with what you do?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that we've done. We've done quite a lot of work as well in some of the informal settlements in rural areas. We've been working with partners as well, so it's not just us. Whether it's Rotary, it's Shopco, it's AMREF and the community health workers. We've been working with some of the retail distributors like Copia, all the way in rural areas as well, where people still have to go, even if they have to stay indoors. They still need to go to the retails and buy their shopping and practice the hygiene. So I think that's something else that we've been thinking about, and working with some of the dukas and making sure that we have an interface where we can actually send some messaging, to remind them a bit, on their SMS, on their messages, on the right time to wash your hands and the right time to do that. So I think that's something else that we've been thinking about quite actively as well, and that we will continue thinking about, because I think it's absolutely critical that we don't exclude, and especially in places like Turkana, for example, where water is going to be really tough and it's going to be really difficult. But we've been focusing to give a response first to where the hot areas in the countries have been, and where the hot spots have been identified in terms of hand washing by the government, right? So we are first responding to what the leadership of the Ministry of Health has been, in terms of where we can give support and where we feel that, our resources, which we've been doing and trying to raise as much as we can, is trying to respond to those needs. And yes, we've done quite a lot, but there's still so much more to be done.
Yeah.
And I think the point about this National Business Compact, that it's a platform for collaborations, and we welcome other businesses and other coalitions as well to join in and share their expertise, share that knowledge, so that, we can have best practices rolled out everywhere. This is very much a coalition of the willing, which we are transforming very quickly into a coalition of the able and the willing as well. So I think it's really important that we keep all our resources and our mind focused on getting the solutions and basically equipping people to live in this new normal, which is a life in the time of COVID-19.
All right. So, Ms. Sidibe, tell us your experience. How has it been working with people in the informal setups, especially in regards to matters to do with the measures such as social distancing and washing of hands?
Well, it's really hard. We've done some work, for example, even with Rick last week with matatus and thinking about how we transport people and giving them some sanitizers and making sure that they have access to sanitizers coming in and out and all of that. It's the reality is that people are still struggling with, water. They're still struggling with, information. There's a lot of myths that need to be busted where people believe the wrong things. So I think there's a lot of, great important information that need to be shared, which I think is absolutely critical. I think there is, there's still so much to be done to make sure that people have access, not only when they're out of home, but in their homes as well, to a place, because not everybody would have access, for example, to a toilet per household, right? So, coming out there and saying you need to practice hand washing with soap, what does that look like? How do you, create a little hand washing place within your small house, to do that? And people are worried also about, of course, their bills and reductions and job losses are a reality. And, we've been distributing a lot of free soap, of course, as well, just to make sure that people, are not hindered by the costs of any of these hygiene products, so that they can actually, practice the behavior. But at the same time, I think it's important, like you said before, to make sure that, the water access is a reality, and that, and soon we're going to get to a point where people are going to be thinking about food, and food security, and they are already. So I think that's a very important part of the next element, which we've just partnered now with the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Livestock to think about how do we launch agriculture, food security, how can people start, creating a little kitchen gardens if possible, what can you do, can we distribute more food parcels, what exactly is possible, because if you want people to do this social distancing and these great habits that are good for everyone in the society, you need to enable them to do it.
All right. Now, even as you talked about the street kids and people in the informal setups, do you have guidelines to also help protect people with disabilities? People with disabilities, PWDs.
Yeah. So, well, I talked about this a little bit. I think it's we need to think about it very actively on whether it is on the design of the hand washing facility, whether it is on the nudging, so making sure that the way in which they can get to that is very clear to them. Maybe making sure that they have their own soap or carrying with them, because it's going to be really hard. And I think equipping them with, who's around their family and their circles to make sure that they're going to be, we're going to be thinking about them as well. So I think there is something about the design, and there is definitely something about, making sure that we are sharing with them also some of the key messages on making sure that they can hear it, they can understand where to find it, and that the circles, the family circles or the friend circles around them are keeping a special care to make sure that they also get to practice those behaviors, because it requires for us to think very actively on how to make this more accessible and design it more friendly for them, and that's the reality of where we're at. So I don't have an exact answer today, but we are thinking about it, and we've been looking at what exactly does that look like when you are, it's about positioning your hand washing facilities in places where they can access if you're in a wheelchair. It's about, like I was saying, something about making sure that maybe there is there is clarity on how you get to the hand washing facilities. And I think that's absolutely critical. Well, we're not, schools are still closed, but I think, as they reopen, that we keep in mind that, in schools where there are kids that are, for example, visually impaired, that, we're keeping special care for them and making sure that, the facilities are available to them as well.
All right. Now, still on the same issue, from where you sit, what more can the government do to ensure that such persons are catered for? Because in times of crisis, they tend to be forgotten.
In terms of pricing, you said?
I'm saying that from where you sit, what more do you think the government can do to cater for people such as the PWDs? Because in times of crisis, they often tend to be forgotten.
No, you're right. And absolutely, and we need to think about that. I think it's obviously from a policy angle, it's absolutely critical that we make sure that it is absolutely mandatory for people to have access to to these facilities. That we make sure that they can have access during this time to soap, to sanitizers, to hand washing facilities, and that the design is clear for them. But I think it's. At the moment, I guess the government is also focused on making sure everybody has access, but I think there needs to be a special focus that's really thinking about where, like the differently abled can have access to that, whether it's the messaging. And I've seen some great work being done already with some of the coalitions like the Safe Hands, where they started thinking about, when you are on wheelchairs, how do you have access to the water and sanitation? Like, what does that mean for you? Like, what does social distancing mean when you require another human being to either guide you, for example? And I think that's exactly the kind of conversation that we need to have if we want to be inclusive, to make sure that no one is left behind and that the furthest behind are reached first.
All right, and also as NBCC, you really done a good cause by raising over 700 million to assist the government to stem the spread of this disease. Do you feel like more corporate organizations need to join in this cause?
Absolutely, and we welcome them. We've got a pay bill number, which we can share with them, as well as so the Flexi Fund that we have is actually with AMREF, which is Africa's largest civil organizations in terms of health, and I think we've got an oversight committee with the UN, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, as well as the Red Cross and Marketing Society of Kenya. And we welcome donations, we welcome support, but we also welcome a lot of pro bono and human capital to come to the table to really think about what they can do professionally to really help us, because I think a lot of what we've just talked about is about messaging. It's a lot about what we talked about is also about having access, and a lot of these corporates might have retail shops and ways in which people are every day interacting with them. And this is the right way in which we can reinforce the key messages around hygiene, making sure that the best of what corporates have on the table is actually used to make sure that that's actually best done.
All right. And so for those organizations that may want to donate, how can they be able to do that?
I think they can do the pay bill. They can obviously get in touch with us at info at COVID-19 businessresponse.ke. So that's another way. And then also just join our meetings and then identify where their needs would be and find ways to do that. But we do have a secretariat that's quite active, that is actually been gathering in a resource mobilization team. So it would be absolutely critical to be able to come on board. And there is a pay bill, which right now I don't know by heart, but which I could share with you.
All right. Okay. So just finally, as you bring the discussion to a close, Ms. Sidibe, do you think we can really fight the war on COVID-19? Can it be a thing of the past and we forget about it?
I hope so, like the whole world. I hope so. Look, nobody can tell you what's going to happen with COVID-19. I think I saw something that was very nice yesterday, is that the only thing that we know is that we need to be fitter than we've ever been, that we need to take care of ourselves, we need to practice, because nobody can tell you how it will evolve, what will happen exactly. But I think it's reminding us that there are some basic rules of hygiene, basic rules of living that we now need to incorporate in our lives for the good, because that is the reality of what a world could look like with a global pandemic at the heart of it. I think that's absolutely critical to keep in mind. I hope, like everyone else, that we will overcome it, and I hope that we don't know which businesses will be alive. We don't know what will be relevant. But the one thing that is absolutely key is that we stay compassionate and we stay kind with each other, and that we remind every day that it is not easy for the person across you, and it's not easy for ourselves. So to be kind with ourselves and celebrate every day that we manage to get through, and that we are able to practice all those behaviors that are absolutely critical for fighting COVID-19, because we're not going to do this individually. We're going to do this as a society, and we're going to do this together.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Sidibe, for making time this morning.
Thank you.
All right. I've been speaking to Ms. Miriam Sidibe on the role of corporate organizations in curbing COVID-19, and that is what she has been breaking down for us this morning. She has been telling us, rather, it's concerning what they're doing at the Business Compact Coalition, at least to assist the government curb COVID-19 in the informal setups, rural setups, and even for persons living with disabilities, really assisting the government to curb this issue of COVID-19 with more of what they're doing at NBCC.
All right, and based on how said, it is quite interesting in regards to how they are coming up, and in how a woman can be able to stand up during this pandemic, Doreen. And what my take home there is, well, slightly different based on gender, because it's women at the forefront. Well, how women can be able even to stand up together and to be able to support government initiatives and government stipulations in regards to this COVID-19. So, Doreen, I don't know, when you look at that, it is quite interesting. Looking at that, that was quite an interesting discussion. But moving forward, this morning we are moving on to the next discussion on Health Tuesday. And when it's a Tuesday, we'll be talking about what is affecting your health. What is currently the discussion is in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the coronavirus has made the country to be shaken. And one of the current or the latest developments in regards to the COVID-19 pertains to the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union. They have been able to cry foul in regards to the withdrawal of NHIF fund, and they allege that there has been failed promises, despite its members remaining a critical pillar in the fight against the spread of the coronavirus. According to the chair, that is Samuel Okoro, he says that the medical practitioners remain deflated, working on the front line under demanding environments of the coronavirus pandemic with little to show of their efforts.
A day after health workers postponed a planned nationwide strike, their counterparts from the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union have decried what they say is systematic neglect by the national and county governments. Union Chair Dr. Samuel Okoro singling out the withdrawal of the National Health Insurance Fund cover for their members at the county level, terming the move as unfair.
Every month, every doctor is deducted an amount of 1,700 from their payslip, which as can be due. We want to urge the Minister of Public Service, Treasury, and the Minister of Health to quickly move in and address this matter.
On the issues around non-service provision for those who are already contributing to NHIF, we don't have that information, but I can assure you that we will get. NHIF is within the ministry, it's one of the sagas of the ministry. We will be able to ask immediate today to be able to understand. But
with the country having crossed the 800 mark in confirmed COVID-19 cases, the union now wants the government to kickstart the stalled employment of more health workers.
The employment process has stalled. The advertisements were closed over 3 weeks ago. There is no movement, there is no communication, no doctors have not undergone any interviews as we speak. And the health workers on the ground are strained to a level where they are just trying their best to ensure that they give the service.
Among key challenges they want addressed include salary delays, poor working conditions and availability of quality and adequate protective gears, as well as establishment of a welfare service. The Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Unions now expect the two levels of government to step up and address the myriad of challenges that the sector faces. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Sarafina Robbie.
That is what brings us to this morning conversation in regards to the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentist Union. Well, joining me live is Dr. Samuel Aguko. Thank you very much, Dr. for finding time to join me this morning. Hope you are well.
Thank you for having me. I'm well and keeping safe. Hope you are too.
All right, thank you very much. I'm also doing well. First things first, you complained about the NHIF. You're crying foul over the withdrawal of the NHIF cover to its members. And you said the move is unreasonable and its members contribute 1,700 shillings every month for the medical cover. Now, just to keep us up to speed, what is it that led to this development so far?
Thank you. Just to bring it up to speed, the doctors and most workers used to earn what we call medical allowance, which was ranging from 1,500 up to 3,000, depending on your job group. Then when there was a reform at NHIF, and they said that NHIF needed to provide comprehensive cover, then this medical allowance was taken away and given to NHIF.
All right, so that is the chairman giving us his take. We'll be linking up with him in a bit in regards to the NHIF cover and its withdrawal to the members. Well, Dr. Samuel Aguko, you just proceed from where you left. You're saying?
So I'm saying that so the medical allowance was taken away and given to NHIF. So in addition to the medical allowance, then the doctors are contributing 1,700 shillings directly from the payslip, which is deducted and given to NHIF. So we have been getting comprehensive cover from the NHIF, but then we have a challenge. The doctors who are employed by the county governments, NHIF has written the letter to the county governments indicating that the employees who are employed by the county governments don't belong to the category of civil servants who enjoy the benefits of the comprehensive cover.
Where do they belong to?
But let's remember, we don't know where they belong to. That's why we are saying that we need proper clarification from the public service, from Treasury, and from the Minister of Health. Just to explain further, there are two categories of staff. There are those who are in employment before devolution, and then there are those who are employed after devolution. So for the categories who are employed before devolution, you should know the Treasury, every month they contribute the medical allowance, which they took away from the staff, to NHIF. But the county governments do not give the medical allowance to the NHIF so that they be able to be covered. So recently, we saw the Insurance Regulatory Authority claiming that NHIF needs to pay the Insurance Regulatory Authority a given percentage of the amount of money which they receive from different corporations and different employees in government who are undercover by NHIF. And then this proceeded to have NHIF kind of terminate or indicate to terminate any kind of agreement they have with the parastatals, with the county governments, and other employers who have taken up the cover of NHIF. Then we saw a Treasury circular, circular notice number 34, which was given around March, extending the contract of NHIF for almost 1 year. Now, we were expecting that NHIF would continue to cover all the employees at the county level and the national level as they were being covered. But then counties, when they tried to renew the contract which they had signed, they have received, and we have those letters with us, they have received letters from NHIF saying that the circular was only particular for the civil servants, employees of the National Police Service, and employees of the Public Service Commission.
So you are being excluded from that whole process. All right, we'll be getting in touch with him in a bit in regards to that. A lot coming up. He's, in regards to the NHIF cover, he says that there was some distinction when it comes to the circular that was sent, and that the distinction comes when we're talking about the health workers being excluded from the NHIF cover. And Doreen, if I just romp you in, it's quite interesting when we have such a ton of events where health workers are not considered as civil servants.
Well, remember that we also had a similar story this morning on our dailies where health workers are continuously complaining of how they are being treated. It's the time of the coronavirus pandemic, and the least we would want is to have health practitioners complain. KMPDU has been complaining that they want more health workers to be hired because the ones that are already in place cannot manage the kind of situation. Remember that also, Ram, we are continuously recording cases in, day out. And so for a different sector of the health practitioners to complain today, another sector tomorrow, well, that just raises the question of where exactly is our priorities in terms of governance, because for them, for this today, you'll hear a couple of them complaining of salary rise. Tomorrow you'll hear a couple of them complaining that they need more health workers in their facilities. The next day you'll hear some saying that they haven't been paid for 2 months or even 3 months and there are likes, and then you just continue wondering where exactly is our priority as a country. I feel from my personal perspective that it is time when we need to ensure we take care of health workers, and their needs need to really come at the top of our minds as a country.
And looking at the rate of exposure when it comes to health workers, we'll be getting Dr. Rocco's view on the rate of exposure for the health workers and how they will be moving forward after this circular was sent out. Remember, he said that NHIF has declined to renew the comprehensive civil service cover for workers under county governments. And this has left health workers who are currently in the front line in the fight against COVID-19 with no insurance cover. What will this entail? When it comes to the health workers' services, will it mean that they will be derailed? Is this encouraging? Will they move to the next step and instill more measures? Remember, so much is yet to be discussed this morning, even as talk about the salaries being delayed.
Yeah.
Salaries of health workers. Remember yesterday, the nurses were supposed to go on strike. They called it off.
Now, Ram, even as you talk about the salaries being delayed, as you talk about them being denied the insurance cover, remember that you also had a discussion where we are talking about the community health volunteers, which are not necessarily trained doctors or trained nurses, but they are more in touch with people in the grassroots level, and at least they were to be approved to be part of the system to continue assisting the government to stem the spread of this disease. But then again, you wonder, if we have doctors and nurses complaining of delayed salaries, lack of insurance cover, then how will we even bring the community health workers to assist the government? Because more of what you're looking at this time is ways in which you can stem the spread of this disease, and whichever way possible, we'll look into that. So it just brings to my mind that question of, if we can't take care of these medical professions, how can we then bring in community health volunteers to assist the government to stem the spread of this disease? So there's so many questions surrounding the health sector which we need to look into during this time.
And looking into that, we'll also find out what it means also when it comes to the claims that the KMPDU chairman has put in regards to the counties and the national government. He's accusing them of playing politics. Quite interesting there. Well, give us a take even as we continue with this morning conversation right here on Good Morning Kenya at KBC. Channel 1 is the station handle, at Ram Aguko, at Doreen Arange, at Ray Manyara, and at Jane Wambui. Remember, we're live on Facebook, www.kbc.co.ke. That is the website, also where we are live at on YouTube. Also, we are live. The hashtag, as always, is Good Morning Kenya. And Doreen, before we continue with this conversation, I would like to just sample up a few of the comments that have been given by our viewers in regards to this COVID-19 pandemic and in regards to the discussion that we are having this morning. Now, let me go to Facebook and get to see what people are saying in regards to this. Okay, all right. So I'm seeing this is Samuel. I'm seeing Samuel is saying, "Thank you. I'm watching the conversation live from Ruiru, keeping it Good Morning Kenya." I'm looking at Atumik is saying is watching also. Ian Kims anasema tuned in from Eldoret. I'm glad to watch KBC. Onish Michael anasema tuned in from Vihiga. Frank Nakweba is saying watching live from Dubai. Livingstone Baraza sema niko ndani ya KBC ndani. Interesting there. Make sure that you give us your comments in regards to this conversation that we're having. So Doreen, when it comes to the government, and here we're talking about both the national and county government. I would like to quote what the KMPDU chairman said in regards to this. He said that when you look at the county and the national government, he accused them of playing politics. And he says, in his words, it's a blame game at the expense of the welfare of health workers. What's your thought on this, Doreen?
Well, Ram, even as you talk about, probably what the KMPDU chair said in his statement, I think also what I would love him to address. Remember when we were beginning this conversation about health workers, we also talked about the issue of them getting enough equipment that they can use during this pandemic because they are on the front line. And we have had so many cases in different counties where the health practitioners, health workers continue to complain of not getting enough and necessary equipment. And when I talk about this is in regards to also the kind of face mask, the kind of protective gears that they need. And yet a good number of them are complaining that if they do not have this necessary equipment, how can they cater for people that are coming in sick? We've also had cases of some health practitioners complaining that they go back home and they're stigmatized by their own family members because of the kind of work that they do. So if you imagine already the kind of problem that health workers are going through in this country, in terms of some of them being stigmatized, in terms of them not getting the enough equipment, you may just wonder then why would we again subject them to issues such as delayed payments and lack of insurance covers? Interesting comments there, Doreen. So let's head over back to the discussion that I was having with Dr. Samuel Rocco, the KMPDU chairman. So he is joining me now over the phone. Dr. Samuel, you are talking about your workers being excluded in your circular. Now, I was trying to find out also in regards to that same point. Were you in communication with the relevant stakeholders, with everyone involved, or did you just realize this when everything was said and done?
Thank you, and sorry for the technology challenges. So we, as I've said, that the people who have been excluded, and this must be very clear, are doctors and generally healthcare workers who were employed by the county governments from the year 2014 coming up.
Yes.
So they are from that circular and from the letters which we have from NHIF, it seems to suggest that these employees at the county level are not civil servants.
But remember, when we are negotiating for the benefits of these doctors who we represent, whenever we try to say that the workers are doing unique work, the workers are doing specific work which is different from what maybe other sectors could be doing, we are always being reminded that these are civil servants, and therefore the pay should be uniform across the board for all civil servants.
Yes.
Now we are wondering how come, in terms of comprehensive cover, they are being excluded. And just to remind you, we signed a collective bargaining agreement back in 2017. In the collective bargaining agreement, which we have signed with the 47 county governments and the Minister of Health, we have agreed in principle that the employees, and in this case our members who are doctors, will enjoy a comprehensive medical cover, which shall be provided in consultation with the union.
And that's why, Dr. Rock, I'm asking.
Yes.
To this point in time that you received all this information, I'm aware that there was a CB agreement. Agreements were made before. Were you in communication with the relevant personnel when it comes to this, or did you just find out about this when all was said and done?
We have always been in communication.
How does it come as a surprise for you?
It is not a surprise. It is not a surprise. You have asked a very important question. Have we been in communication? Yes, we have written letters before. Even when we saw the circular coming out, we were not informed in the first place as a union that this circular was going to come out. So we just saw the circular coming out. When we saw the circular coming out, we did a letter to the Minister of Public Service.
Also, you are not told, you just found the circular when it was already released?
We just found the circular.
It means...
we were not consulted when the circular was being done.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we saw the circular, what we did, we have written to the Minister of Public Service, we have written to the Minister of Treasury and the Minister of Health seeking clarification on why the circular was given out. So we have been waiting for the last 7 days, which we gave to the relevant authorities, which I've mentioned above. We haven't received any communication. That's why we have come out now to the public to inform the public that our members at the county level are being left out for comprehensive cover. But remember, we are in a situation of a pandemic, which is a health emergency, which is a health situation. It is wrong timing.
Yes.
It is wrong timing even to exclude the health workers who are involved in the forefront in the fight against coronavirus.
Now, what is your next point of action?
Our next point of action, we are going to await for proper communication and clarification from the relevant authorities, as I mentioned above. And if there is going to be none, then we will seek the intervention of the president, because the president has launched the UHC program, which tends to cover everybody. Then it's ironic if the healthcare workers could be excluded from that comprehensive cover.
Now, you have been talking about relevant workers, and I would like you maybe to clarify further on that. When it comes to those that you've been in communication with, who are the specific individuals that you might have talked to that were part of this conversation from the beginning?
We have always engaged the NHIF at the branch level, at the county level. So we have had our officials talk with the NHIF branch managers, for example, in Kericho, in Nakuru, the branch managers have been engaged. Tried to get in touch with the CEO of NHIF, the new CEO, but he's been very busy. He's been promising to get back, been promising to set up a meeting, but we have not gotten that through. So we have written to the relevant authorities, which I've told you, in particular the CS for public service. We have written to the CS for National Treasury, because he's the one who gave the circular of extension for an agreement or the contract between NHIF and the relevant employers. So those are the people who we have tried to seek audience, but it has not been forthcoming.
Yesterday, there was a strike that was postponed yesterday for the nurses. What are your thoughts in regards to that strike that was postponed?
KBD, and as we said yesterday,
Yes.
as KBD, we have continued to keep our doctors in the work facilities. We want to say that the concerns raised by our colleagues, not only nurses but other healthcare workers, are very varied. So that must be very clear. Those concerns are very varied, which some of them also we have been raising, especially in terms of promotions, in terms of training,
Salaries, employment.
salaries, days, shortage of staff.
Yeah.
We have many doctors out there who have not been employed. So there are varied concerns, inadequate quality PPEs in the hospitals. So there are many challenges. But we have said that because we are facing a crisis, it's not the right time to pull out our staff from the hospitals, because Kenyans depend heavily on this staff in this time of a pandemic. Just imagine our situation whereby we could cross all hospitals in Kenya, and there are people who have been diagnosed with COVID-19 and they require ICU facilities and they require to be given medication in the hospitals. We could bring a disaster to the people who we saw an oath protect. That's why we say that for us, it is a valid concern. We want to continue to engage the government, to continue to urge the government to do what is practical and what is possible, because we know it is possible to address these challenges. But if it is going on strike, it is not the right time for us to engage in a strike.
Now, you had accused the two levels of government of playing politics and blame game at the expense of the welfare of health workers. Further explain or elaborate on this.
Thank you. Since devolution,
yes,
we have seen a lot of back and forth arguments in terms of who is supposed to manage the workers, where the funds are supposed to be channeled to.
Yeah.
So the key issue in this regard is the employment of the healthcare workers. We have all seen, or we saw an advertisement done by the Public Service Commission following the directive of His Excellency the President that they employ more healthcare workers, which was again emphasized by the CS Health. Immediately the advert was out, we saw a communication from the Council of Governors saying that they do not recognize that advertisement. Employment of healthcare workers is at the county level by the county public service boards. Healthcare is involved, and therefore they're the ones to employ.
But employment had stalled for a long time.
Then the Public Service Commission proceeded to give or to send all the applications to the county level. And this has been there for a long time, yes, because we, even on training for doctors, we have the Minister of Health approving courses for doctors who are going for postgraduate training. Now, once you have been given a course approval and you have admission to the university, it's automatic you should be given a study leave. But then counties have been denying to give doctors a study leave to go to school to do their further studies, saying that they have authority to decide which course is relevant for their particular county. And then the Minister of Health also is saying we have this shortage at the national level. We need to train more dermatologists. We need to train more surgeons. But County A thinks they do not require such a specialty. So that back and forth has led to stagnation in career progression for doctors. And that's why we have said to be able to solve all this, we need a centralized way of management of human resource, which then will take up the issues of employment, the issues of training, the issues of promotion, transfers across the counties. Because right now, if you are employed in County A, you're going to work there until you die. There's no way of moving to another county unless you resign and new employment.
But
and
now,
that's why we've been advocating and campaigning for creation of a health services commission, which then will help in creating a standardized way and solving all these issues.
Well, that was where I was coming to, Daktari. What are your current thoughts in regards to what you have done to address this problem? What have you done so far as KMPDU chair?
So, KMPDU, we have been engaging in policy. Number one, we developed a training policy which we shared with the Minister of Health and the Council of Governors that was seeking to solve the problem of training. And they were trying to tell them the Minister of Health need to get a fund, a training fund, so that when doctors are going to school, they come fully from the counties, they are fully released from the counties, and the salary is paid at the national level, as opposed to the current situation where you come back to school, the county pays your salary, the ministry pays your school fees.
So you forwarded these proposals, huh?
Yes, we have forwarded these proposals
to
the Minister of Health and the Council of Governors.
All right, and have you received any response?
The responses we have received are promises that we are going to address this. From the former CS who is now in water, Sisiri Karaoke,
yes,
we are going to address this, but there's been no move.
There's been no move.
Number two,
do you have confidence in the government and in the county government? Well, governments for different in different levels, and those that you've passed your recommendations or solutions to.
What we think we like political goodwill in doing this, because sometimes governors maybe feel the need to have control over the workers. Then another thing which we have done is on legislation. We have presented a petition to the National Health Committee, the National Assembly Health Committee and the Senate Health Committee. And these petitions and proposals were seeking to amend various legislations, including the Constitution, including the Public Finance Management Act, and including the Health Act. Why are we doing this? We're looking at creating increasing the number of level 6 hospitals, or what is currently known as the referral facilities,
yes,
from the current 4 to about 15. Why are we doing this? We thought this way then the new facilities be the new training centers.
Okay.
So that you can centralize training to various regions and avoid this situation where all doctors have come to Nairobi or Eldoret for postgraduate training.
Now,
another situation which you have presented to the National Assembly and Senate is on creation of Wild Services Commission.
But still, you believe that there is no goodwill.
And we even drafted the bill and presented the same. We have looked it through the BPI. As we speak, we have done 2 presentations to the BPI on the creation of Wild Services Commission. Remember, it's from our presentation that the initial report of BPI gave support for HSC to be created. So
now,
those are the various things which you have done.
Yes. Now, Dr.
Yes.
I would like to find out from you, because of the interest of time, you declared poor working conditions for our frontline health workers during this pandemic. What are your recommendations in regards to addressing this problem? As we bring this discussion to a close.
Thank you. So number one is we need to have all healthcare workers given PPEs, and I mean a mask, which is N95, goggles, an apron, and a face shield. And then for those who are attending to COVID-19 patients who are positive, they need to be provided with accommodation near the hospital where they are working. Number two, there needs to be transport. And for the workers who are involved in COVID-19, they need to be provision for meals. We have seen in Bagati, where even hotels is now, we saw Safari Park Hotel and Pan-African Hotel bringing food to the workers who are in Bagati Hospital. This should be the responsibility of the government to ensure that those who are attending COVID patients are provided for food.
Okay.
Because they are unable to go out there and seek for food. So we need to have a number. Then the last one, talk about working conditions. Working conditions is even for the public, is even for the people who are going to the hospitals. So we need the hospitals to be equipped with ICU facilities. As we speak, we only have a less than 500 ICU capacity in this country, combined public and private. So we need the government to invest in ICU facilities and create more isolation centers, because we have seen other counties going to the stadiums and creating isolation centers there. We need to have space to have isolation centers, because we need to be more prepared even for the future. This is the last time we may have a pandemic. We know pandemics come and go. In the future, we may have more pandemics. We need to be prepared for
Okay.
any eventuality in the future.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samuel Oroko, for your time.
Thank you.
All right, that is Dr. Samuel Oroko. On phone, the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union Chair. Health Tuesday continues.
Thank you very much, Ram. Indeed, very well put there. Health Tuesday continues. There's been a misconstrued opinion that for you to be suffering mental illness, you have to look unkempt or walking naked in the streets. That is not so. Mental health is here with us, and it knows no race, tribe, or demographic. This morning, we're looking at mental well-being. Now, joining me in studio is a clinical psychologist, that is Madam Sheila Mavua with the Nairobi Metropolitan. Good morning.
Morning.
What is the current status of mental well-being, especially here in Nairobi?
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. As you said, I'm Sheila Mavua. I work with Nairobi Metropolitan Services. And currently, if we just start with a general overview of what WHO reported in a report in October 2019. In that report, it stated that 1 in every 4 people will suffer from a mental health illness. And worldwide, we're looking at a projection of around 450 million suffering from mental health related disorder. And I think when we look, or when you come back to our country, a few months ago, there was also a survey that was done, and we are currently looking at close to 2 million people.
Yes, 1.9 actually as
Yes.
per the WHO.
Yes.
That's quite a huge number looking at the current population census. Maybe we can just tackle the issue. There is the use of the term mental health and mental well-being.
Yes.
Maybe you can start from there. Is there much difference?
Okay, mental health and mental well-being, most of the time they are interrelated, because when you talk about your mental health, it's just like when someone says my physical health. So for you to be physically healthy, then it means that mentally you also need to be healthy. So when we talk about health, what are we looking at? We are looking at you having a sound mind so that you're able to make sound decisions and you're able to function normally, just the same way people would expect you to function in the society. And when you look at it from a normal viewpoint, then anyone that you're interacting with would look at it and say, yeah, this is someone who is okay. So when we talk about mental health in the second perspective, we are also looking at you. If you're not able to function normally, what could be causing that? So if we are able to pick out that probably you are stressed or there is something that is affecting your ability to make sound decisions or to participate in the day-to-day activities of living, then we start assessing that, and we say that there is something that is not really well. So in general, just being mentally healthy is being able to be, sound in mind, body, and spirit.
Very well said. You've talked about different causes of mental health problems. Maybe you can highlight the common causes.
Okay, most of the time, as you correctly put, when people hear mental health, what comes into mind is that someone who is sick, probably naked, running around in the streets or picking trash there and there. But then what we are saying, you can be mentally unwell, not because you are showing those obvious symptoms, but because your judgment is impaired, or there is something that is making you not make proper judgment. So some of the main or the common issues that people would experience would be stress, the normal stresses of life. Ideally, we are usually told that we all experience stress at any point, and we have what we call eustress. Eustress is that stress that makes you go out and do stuff, make you out and do things, you're able to achieve your targets. And after you've done that, you feel really nice because it is something that is pushing you to go out and achieve. But then when that stress continues for a very long time, then it becomes distress. So when it becomes distress, then you'll find people will start exhibiting symptoms of fatigue. Sometimes people will have headaches. Sometimes people are unable to sleep properly. Sometimes people are unable to think through their thought processes well. And when that one happens, then that is the time when we say there is something that is going on. So probably you need to take a break and just evaluate yourself. Why are you not able to sleep? Why are you not able to communicate properly? Why are you not able to go out and socialize the same way you've been socializing with people? Why is it that you are withdrawing from the social activities that you would at a normal day do? So those are some of the things that we look at. Then you're able to say something is not right. So if something is not right, then it is time to take action and do a corrective action to improve that.
You've talked about different types of trust, and it's a problem when it becomes distress.
Yes.
Now, with the current situation around COVID-19, we've had government putting in place measures, including curfew and the stay-at-home directive.
Yes.
This has ensured that spouses, children, we are in the same basket, or rather in the same area every day for the last 2 months plus. Now, has this prevalence and these measures of COVID-19 in any way exacerbated the issue of mental health?
Yes. To tell you the truth, based on the statistics that are there, they have really had a direct impact on people's lives. Remember, with the curfew, most of people are not able to go out and do what they are used to doing. So all of a sudden, because of COVID, you are forced to stay within a certain confinement. So your movements are limited. You can't go out and make money, especially if you are one person who has to go out on a daily basis and make money. Even those ones who are working, you find yourself now having to learn to work from home. So that is having a toll on people's mental well-being and functioning. And if I can give an example of Nairobi currently, we are seeing a high number of cases of intimate partner violence. And other than intimate partner violence between spouses and partners, we're also seeing gender-based violence rising. So currently, as we are speaking, as per to yesterday, Nairobi was leading in terms of gender-based violence. So based on the statistics that are there, you find most of the people who are affected are women. So for women, we are at around 78%. And then for girls, by yesterday evening, we reported there were around 23 cases reported of violence that is being meted upon young girls. And then for the boys, we had around 19. So when you look at statistics generally, 27% of the women in Nairobi currently are facing some form of gender violence. And then when it comes to men, we are talking of around 8%. And then, of course, for the children, we are talking of 7.5%. Why is this so? COVID has just triggered what has been there for a very long time, because you find we stay in relationships, and most of the time going out works as a breather, to so speak. So when you are away from your partner, you are able to deal with your stresses and
issues of escapism.
Exactly.
Work,
yes,
socializing out there with your boys or your girls has
yes,
given you an opening, or rather an opportunity for you to breathe.
Yes.
Now that is no longer there.
It's no longer there. So you wake up in the morning and you have to stay with this partner of yours from morning to evening every day for the next 21 days, and then the next 21 days. Then you start discovering things about your partner that probably you didn't know. So this partner has got nowhere to vent out whatever frustration they are feeling. So small things will just trigger fights and all that. So we are seeing many people feeling frustrated because you can no longer earn, you can no longer meet your boys or girls, you can no longer meet your friends to just talk about it. So there is really nowhere to vent out your anger. So the only next person that you can vent out your anger is your spouse. And then the other thing that is clearly coming out, most of the partners have not been communicating. We've been talking at each other. So because communication breakdown has been there for a very long time, now it becomes even more challenging to start a conversation when you've not been communicating for a very long time. Then look at the children at home. So you have to think of homeschooling, the bills are running, you are unable to provide the necessary meals. We are told about social distancing. Probably you are living in a space where you can't even be able to do social distancing. So all those things are contributing to heightened levels of stress.
Now, because you're finding ourselves in this situation,
Yes.
and it's not going to abate anytime soon, given
Yes.
the current statistics. So what options do we have? Because indeed, those are grim statistics, especially within the family setup, we can say, where there's a man and a woman and even a child who end up carrying the weight. So what do we do? Actually, maybe before we even look at what we do, what are the telltale signs? Do they have to always be physical, or is there a way you can tell the telltale signs that are psychological or rather emotional ones?
Thank you for the question. So there are many telltale signs that people are experiencing. Some people will experience all of them, others will experience a few of them. So physically, it will manifest by people probably getting into fights. It could be physical fights or verbal fights. Emotionally, you find people get withdrawn. Socially, you find people want to be alone. So they are no longer interested in talking to each other. They are no longer interested in participating in social activities. Other times you find people lock themselves up because they don't want to communicate with any other person. And then at times you might find that many people will come and report they are unable to sleep. And if they are unable to sleep, then it means that they are not able to function properly. Others will come with symptoms of headache. Others will be very irritable. Small things that ideally will not irritate you, all of a sudden they are irritating, maybe a remark or a word someone said, or you placed a remote where it was not supposed to be.
Or I can't find my belt and I left it here.
Yes, so those small things will just trigger these reactions within a person, and you're able to tell. If you know each other very well, then you're able to tell there is something that is not really right. Other people would refuse to eat because they don't feel the need of eating. Other people would go into depression.
So then how do we deal with this?
So there are many channels. So for example, for Nairobi County, we are cognizant of the fact that many of our health workers, for instance, are going through a lot of challenges, given that they are the frontline workers, and at the same time, they are also family members or family people. They have got children, spouses, their daughters. So what we've done, we have a call center number, which is a helpline for frontline workers. So our number is 020-790-3939. So the number is open, so anyone can call at any time.
Do you mind repeating that number, please?
020-790-3939. So our number is open. We have got trained psychologists online. We're able to offer e-sessions. And the reason why we're doing e-session is because of the current situation we're in, so we're not able to do one-on-one sessions. But online, you're able to call. And when you call, the number is toll-free.
Oh, thank God. I was about to ask if it's a premium or it's a toll-free number.
Yeah, it is a toll-free number. So anytime you can reach a counselor and you'll be able to get what we call psychological first aid. For those ones probably who have got other issues that the counselor will be able to assess and feel that this person needs further referral and linkage, we are able to link you to appropriate places through our online medium, and you get the assistance that you need.
Do you just deal with frontline workers, or is it open for a person or a person who has issues and they need to talk?
It is open for everyone. Yeah. So our initial objective was to offer psychological first aid to the frontline health workers and their families. But as we go on, we have even opened it up to the quarantine centers that we are currently managing, and we've opened it out to the public. So whoever is out there and feels they need to talk to someone, they can always find us there. And then when it comes to GBV, we have got, for the county, we have got 1195. So 1195 is a toll-free number where you can call. For SMSs, we can actually send your SMSs on 0722 116 116. So that is a child helpline. And then we have got 21094, which is a GBV reporting line for the county. And then we also have got an MSF number, 0711 400 506. So those are numbers that are open to the public, and we encourage the public to report in case you are in a situation that you feel, I need to be helped, then you will get the help. Then other than that, we're encouraging people to maintain the social connections. As much as we're saying we need to keep the social distance, we are not saying cut off your social connections. So social connections, we're talking about staying in touch through our social media platforms. You can call your friends, you can WhatsApp them, you can chat to them. Just keep in touch and know what is happening around. And when you do that, it becomes much easier. And then other than that, we are also encouraging those ones who probably could be having pre-existing mental health related issues. When you feel that you need to be assisted, as I've mentioned, those numbers are available.
Seek help.
Yes, seek
Now,
help.
there have been critics who've come out and said that they really don't see how talking will help.
Yes.
From a clinical psychologist point of view, the benefits of talking out your issues, how does it work? How does it work to, lower your stress levels?
Okay, what we normally say, talking is therapeutic, so we have what we call talk therapy. Sometimes you really, when you're talking, you don't need to sit there and talk back when I'm talking at you. You're giving me an opportunity where I can express whatever it is that I'm feeling, because when you express, when you talk it out, it makes it a bit easier and it helps you vent out whatever it is. So in a psychotherapy session, I'll just sit here and listen to you, because most of the time we just want to be listened to. Sometimes probably I don't need you to tell me what to do. All I need is to just sit with someone who can listen to me. Because when you look at our day-to-day life, as I mentioned earlier, we talk at each other. We rarely communicate. Because in communication, listening is very critical. I need to listen to you, help you pick out what are the issues. And then once we've picked out what issues you are going through, then we're able to sit down, look at them and ask ourselves, how do we help each other? So most of the time, what people want is just to have a space where they can say whatever they want to say without being judged, without being made to feel that they are less of human beings. And when that one happens, you've seen situations where people say, thank you for listening, because that is all that I needed.
Listening is something that we do not really find.
Yes.
Now, how do you tell that the time is right for you to seek professional help?
Yeah, so that is a question that many people have asked, and I can tell you, under under these particular circumstances, sometimes it's hard for people to know that I'm having these problems. But what we normally say, when you know who you are, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you are able to tell where I am going or where I am headed. I don't think I'm on the right direction. So when you're able to know what you can be able to hold in and what you can't, that is the time for you now to say it is time for me to talk to someone. So I think for us as a country, we've had this situation where we've been socialized to believe that, the way men will be told, men don't cry, men don't talk about such things, you have to act and you have to behave like a man. So most of the time you find, because of that socialization, people are afraid to open up and say, I am not feeling okay. But then we are saying it is always good to acknowledge when you're not okay, just say I'm not okay, because we say it is okay not to be okay. So when you get to that point when you feel I can't go on, I just need to say something, I need to tell someone something, don't keep it inside.
The issue of stigma.
Yes.
The issue of stigma around mental well-being, because no one wants to be termed as the crazy woman,
yes,
or the crazy man.
Yes.
How is this hampered, efforts towards mental well-being?
Yes, stigma is a main issue. And even as we're talking now, because of COVID, we are seeing a lot of stigma that is associated with COVID. So because of that stigma, and stigma, it could be stigma or community or social or verbal. So you find many people are afraid to speak out and say, I am not well mentally, because of the fear that I'll be labeled. And no one wants to be labeled, because once you've been labeled as a crazy woman or a crazy man, then you find that one affects you much more than even having the stress that you probably could be having. So as a country, I think we have a long way to go just trying to educate the masses that when you're not mentally okay, it is okay. It is normal for you not to feel okay. And when that one happens, you don't have to beat yourself up so hard and say, oh, if I speak about it, people are going to laugh or people are going to talk about me. So mental health is not just about being seen, walking on the street. So that is an image that we need to change. We need to make people realize that you don't have to be to that level where people look at you and they say, that is a village mad woman, or that is a village madman.
You can be a professional crazy woman.
Yes, you can be. So what we are saying, we need to educate people about mental health. We need people to start talking about the issues that they are facing. Like even now, we're encouraging people to talk. There are many things that people are going through, and it is okay to feel that way. So when you talk, you realize it's not just you going through the same issues. There are also other people who are going through that, and therefore, through talking, you're able to get solutions.
Maybe the other issue we've established that millions of Kenyans are suffering and they are unable to get the help that they need.
Yes.
Is it because there's that issue that maybe you're not willing to speak, but do we have the capacity to address these issues? Do we have people in that profession who can offer these services?
Yeah, so based on your question, there are two folds to it. Yes, people are afraid to talk because they are not aware of where to seek this particular service. And that is something that the ministry and even counties are trying to work around to change that narrative. We have our healthcare facilities that are offering services for free. Because I know for Nairobi, when you ask somewhere or someone, where do you think you can get mental health services? Yeah, Mathare is the only place they'll talk to you about. Other than Mathare, probably they'll mention Chiromo Lane. But then you find, because of the stigma that mental health has gotten all these years, even Mathare as an institution, you find there is a stigma that is associated with the place. But what you are saying, that has to change, and it is changing. You can walk into any health facility, because right now we are having many of our healthcare workers trained on mental health. We're able to screen, because for you to know if you have a mental health condition, it starts with screening. So if you walk into any health facility and say, I need to be screened for mental health related issues, the clinicians, the nurses there, the doctors there will be able to screen you. And then based on what the screening report says, then they're able to advise you accordingly. If you just need to be supported through counseling, then they'll refer you to a counselor. If you need specialized services, then they refer you to specialized trainers or specialists who will be able to take care of you. So in terms of capacity, we are building capacity. We are not yet there, but I believe the path that we've taken as a county, as a government, we will get there in a few years' time.
Now, you say you do clinical first aid.
Yes.
Maybe you can just expound on the steps that one can take to control stress and also build resilience, because I tend to believe that if your mind is in the right place, then there's nothing you can't achieve.
Yes. So for clinical first aid, what we normally call psychological first aid, what we normally ask people to do, or what we would recommend people to do, is for you to look at yourself. As I said, it's important to understand what are your weak areas, what are your strong areas, and then we talk about this concept of self-care, because mental health and well-being starts with you. So if you are physically okay, or if you are physically healthy, that one gives you raised self-esteem, and that is why you find most of the people will tell you, I have got this exercising regime that I do every other morning or every other day, or probably 3 or 4 times in a week. And then watch what you are eating, because when you are eating foods that you know are going to physically help you in just maintaining your physical well-being, then that one also goes in a long way in boosting your self-esteem. And then emotionally, we say avoid situations that make you get emotionally, disturbed. So if you know that if I engage in this particular thing, or if I think within these particular angles, then I'm going to get angry or I'm going to get agitated, then you're able to say, I don't want to continue with this particular discussion, or I think I need a break from all these discussions. So when you maintain, or when you control your emotions, if you're able to control your emotions, you're able to stay psychologically sound, because when you are getting stressed, you would know that based on how I'm feeling, I can't think straight. Therefore, it is time for me to just take a break and step back. So taking a break and stepping back, it gives you this ability or this opportunity to just reevaluate yourself and reflect. Probably you are in the office working, or you're even at home, and you're feeling that there are just too many deadlines that I have to meet. But at this particular time, I'm bound to make mistakes. So what do? Probably I need just an hour off to go take a nature walk, if you're a nature lover, or listen to music, or just chat a friend, or have a cup of tea, or just stretch around. So what we are saying, when you take care of yourself, is just looking at the things that make you feel nice about who you are. And these things, you look at them in terms of physical health, in terms of your eating habits, in terms of your sleep patterns, because if you're not also getting enough sleep, then it is bound to catch up with you later in the week. Then social connections. Do I have friends? Most of the people will tell you, I've got so many friends, but how many times in a day?
Those friends check in.
Exactly. So you need to maintain a social connection of friends that you know. If I call Regina, for instance, Regina will listen to me. She's one person I can tell anything. She will listen, and then she will give me time to just reflect and think. And then we're also saying spiritually, for those ones who are spiritual, there are people who tell you, I have to pray in the morning, I have to do a bit of meditation, or probably I believe in doing yoga or something like that. So what we are saying, think of things that put you in check. And these things will be different based on the different types of personalities that we have.
Then how do we, actually the issue of communication, how do we improve interpersonal communication?
So for communication, what we are saying as partners, we need to go back, because when you look at the situation we are in, there is also a silver lining. We've been too busy, we've been far away from each other, and we've been using a lot of escapism, as you said. But here's a situation where you have got so much time with your partner, your children, and those people that are close to you. So this is the time to learn how to listen to each other, how people think around you, how people have changed, how people have grown. And then as you're doing that, you're able to reflect as partners. What is it that probably we've not been doing right? What is it that probably we need to improve on? So you make new goals as partners. Because if we've not been communicating with each other, what probably could be the issue? Because many of the people will tell you, I leave very early, I come back very late. So by the time I come home, I've got no time to talk to my people. But here is an opportunity to talk to your children, to talk to your spouses, get to know who are they really.
Now on that issue, we've seen that in the last 2-3 months, the statistics indicate that families have separated during this time.
Yes.
We have people quitting their relationships during this time. Is it because they were in bad relationships? I'm trying to use that word, bad relationships.
Yes.
And this time because they've spent time together, as you've said, time that wasn't there previously to get to know this other person, this is how they are. Then now they're trying to change. I mean, what do you think from your end?
From my own opinion, there are many factors that would have caused that. So that one takes us back to the drawing board. So the first question would be, ask yourself, why am I with this person? What was the reason that made me get attracted to this particular person? So as much as we are seeing increased levels of violence, we are also seeing families or relationships that are growing deeper and deeper because people are able to understand each other. So if you're able to answer the question, why am I with this particular person, then you'll be able to work out a lot of things. So you'll find some people will tell you, I got into this relationship because of love. So if you're fighting, you're quarreling, where has the love gone to?
Is it dead? Is it dead?
Yes.
Does it die in the first place?
Sometimes it does. So if it is not there, where did it go to? So probably that will be the starting point. So can we look for this love? Are we still interested in staying together? If you're interested in staying together because you love each other, definitely you'll find a point where you can start the communication again.
No, still on that line.
Yes.
Those people who evaluate themselves and they find their common factor is the children. Would it be wise, we've talked about useful stress and distress, would it be wise to still continue with a relationship when the uniting factor is your children? That the only thing that you're staying is, that the only common ground that you have is your children. Would it be wise?
So for that one, I wouldn't really want to say if it is wise or not wise, but I would advise that it is important to look back beyond the children. What are the other issues? And then if you're able to extensively exhaust the issues around that, then together you can always find a solution. So some people will tell you it is children, but then when they start talking, you find it's actually not children. Probably there are other personal issues that people have. So such couples would advise them probably to seek further help so that they are able to see a therapist who will be able to help them explore further. And if after therapy, if they feel that they can't be together because of some other reasons, then they are able to make independent but decisions that are decisive based on the facts that they have been able to gather. Because many times people will tell you it's just children. But then when you start talking, you find it is not actually the children, and they are able to resolve the issues that they have been having, either because of misunderstandings or assumptions, because sometimes we work with a lot of assumptions. Yeah, so when that one is corrected, then you find people are able to give it a second chance. So we would advise them not to be too quick to make a decision and say it is just because of the children that I'm staying. Look beyond, because remember, before these children came, it was you and that particular partner of yours. So what is it that put you together? So it takes us back to the previous
Find the
question.
reason why.
Yes, find the reason why.
Now, in
Yes.
parting, as talking
Yes.
about mental well-being and the current prevailing issues, there's era of COVID-19, so many uncertainties. Parting short to someone who's watching this morning, and maybe they need a form of encouragement. They don't know if they're suffering from a mental health issue.
Yes.
Parting short from an expert point of view.
Yeah, so for me, I would encourage them and say it is okay not to be okay, because it is normal to feel that way. And mental health is part of who we are. And therefore, for us to say that we are physically okay or physically sound, then mentally we have to be sound, physically we have to be sound, socially we have to be sound. So we need to find a balance. And this balance is something that we need to work on. Because if you don't have a balance, then probably you will find you are tilted towards one side. So we would encourage you to seek out a qualified person to just help take you through. And as I said, we are doing a lot of screening, and these screenings are done free of charge in our public health facilities. So if you visit any facility and say, I just need to be screened, I need to know if I'm having a mental health issues, you'll be helped. Other than that, as I said, the call centers are available, because most people will say, with this COVID, how do I get to a health facility? So we are saying, if you call our number, like what I had shared earlier, 020-790-3939, and you talk to a psychologist, they'll be able to help you go through whatever you are experiencing, and they'll be able to tell you if you need further assessment or if you just need psychological support. So it is always important to just go out there and talk to a trained person and find out, could I be having an issue? And then other than that, we have got mobile apps that we are currently using, where someone can log on to it, and then there are screening tools that you can administer by yourself. Then once you answer those particular questions, you get a scoring. And then based on that scoring, you are able to be connected to a therapist or a counselor who will help you explore further if you need assistance.
These lines that you've given here on air, can we find these details also on your website? Maybe you can share your website too.
So for our website, currently we are still trying to upload. So probably we can share with you once we've done that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Very well said. Thank you, Madam Sheila Mauva there, from a clinical psychologist with the Nairobi Metropolitan, just assuring the issues and the need to maintain mental well-being. If your mind is in the right place, indeed you will be on the right path. Thank you for your time.
Thank you too.
Now, Ram, I don't know what you have to say about mental well-being. What's your take about that, especially representing the demographic that happens to fall under the cadre of the youth? What's your take?
Well, I think it's important to have that good or that proper state of mental health. But before you let her go, you've asked about the youth, and in this age and time, you have social media, and maybe I can get from her when it comes to social media, long distance relationship. How can you maintain a healthy long distance relationship, and make it sustainable? Because at the end of the day, everyone has expectations from each other, and everyone still needs to maintain that proper or that good mental health as they go through that relationship that is long distance through social media.
Maybe you can actually answer Ram's question there. The issue of social interaction, especially during this time, we can't move as we should. We're not hugging as we should. We're not holding hands anymore.
Yeah.
And we're calling that it's a long distance relationship, but yet you're in the same within spaces just because of COVID-19. Then how do we go about it?
Yeah, so that is a very interesting question, but very valid, and I think those are some of the questions most people have asked. So with social media, you realize of late everyone is doing everything through social media. So for relationships, what we are saying, Yeah, as two people who are in relationships, you've got to agree. Remember, we talked about communication.
True.
Yeah, so you need to agree now that we can't physically be present for each other. So using social media, how do we ensure that our relationship keeps on growing? So what we are saying, there are many opportunities on social media. You can agree that other than just talking on phone, we can do WhatsApp calls, or we can do video calls. We can do even Zoom. Yeah.
But it feels so superfluous. It has changed how social interactions work.
Yes.
With technology, it sounds so plastic.
Yes, it does. But then you find with Zoom, at least I'm able to see you. So if I'm able to see you, other than what you are saying, I can pick the things that you're not saying. And when both of you agree that we are in this for a short period of time because of this COVID, but we are looking forward to a really long-lasting kind of relationship, then you're able to go through it. And then, as I said, you also have to, to agree in principle, if it is communication. How often do we need to communicate? Then be as open as possible, because assumptions sometimes create or kill relationships. So if you're not able to find me on call, or you're not able to find me on WhatsApp, then I should be able to tell you I'm available at this particular time, so you can set a routine. That if it is communicating, let's communicate either early in the morning or during the day or later in the evening. So you make sure that whatever happens at that particular time that you said you need to communicate, then you're able to communicate.
Some feedback coming up from our gallery, from our director. He says that currently the use of technology, especially Zoom and WhatsApp, has somewhat turned disappointing, because what you had imagined, the person you were pursuing, when they come up on that screen, they do not meet your physical expectations. You're expecting a light-skinned lady. The person who comes up on Zoom is not what you the issue of expectations. Maybe that's something we need to look into.
Yeah, so when it comes to expectations, we say be as realistic as possible, because most of the relationships, even before COVID, have been broken because of very high expectations. So with social media, you find there's a lot of filtering and all that, so someone can create whatever they want you to see. So what we are saying is that when you put your expectation within levels that you can manage, then at the end of the day, if that person...
You set your parameters
them.
and openness. Now, how about we just sample some of your feedback that we've been getting on our various social media platforms? This morning is Health Tuesday. We've been looking at a myriad of issues, and this last topic is about mental well-being.
We're saying someone is asking, mental health needs to be looked after in the same way as our physical health. The next tweet. I'm saying this is I am mine and Sema. When we strengthen our child's mental health, confidence on resilience will follow. All right, next tweet. We have Linda. Pain is pain. You may not be able to see it, but that doesn't mean you're not feeling it. Be kind always. Interesting tweet there at Linda. Do you have another? They're coming in. All on the board, saying it isn't selfish to care about yourself. It is essential. Let's just sample one more tweet, because there are so many we cannot be able to read all of them. I'm saying if ever there was a time to invest in mental health, that time is now. Regina.
Indeed, very well. It is the time to invest in mental well-being. My guest this morning has been Shayla Mavua, a clinical psychologist with the Nairobi Metropolitan, just saying that you need to keep your mind at the best level of well-being, because if it is not, then you're going to lose it. And it doesn't mean that our expectations about who a person who's suffering from mental health care does not necessarily, has always been the person is unkempt or walking naked in the streets, or picking trash. It's not. You can be a professional person who's suffering from mental health. So it's a high time that you took that into concern. Now we just have a sneak peek of what is happening outside these studios. We have a sneak peek, that is, we're expecting Parliament not too long. So you have a great day. Let us meet same time tomorrow for an interactive segment of Good Morning Kenya.
And on my end, may God bless you. God bless the work of your hands. My name is Aguko. See you tomorrow. Have a blessed day.
Virusi vya korona vinazidi kuenea haraka kote ulimwenguni, na kwa sasa hakuna dawa au chanjo ya kuzuia. Husambaa wakati vijitone kutoka kwa mtu aliyeambukizwa vinaporuka akiongea, kukohoa au kupiga chafya. Vijitone hivi hutua kwenye sehemu ambazo mikono hushika na huwezi kuviona, lakini hata kama huvioni haimaanishi kuwa hakuna, na unaweza kuambukizwa unapogusa uso wako, pua, mdomo au macho. Ili kusaidia kuzuia kuenea kwa virusi hivi, sote tunahitajika kufanya mambo matano. 1. Fuata hatua hizi: kuosha mikono yako mara kwa mara na sabuni na maji kwa angalau sekunde 40. 2. Funika mdomo wako na kiwiko wakati wote unapokohoa au kupiga chafya. 3. Usishike uso wako. 4. Epuka sehemu zenye watu wengi. Weka umbali salama baina yako na wenzako. 5. Kaa nyumbani ukiweza, hasa ikiwa una dalili zozote za ugonjwa. Kwa maelezo zaidi tembelea www.who.int.
It's just fantasy. Caught in a landslide.
On the next episode of Corner.
Niko nahitajika usaidizi hapo hivyo kiasi.
Yaani wewe ndio umeiva karibu moment imekubali.
Manzi si una wife yako, manzi si umcheki kila siku.
You told me I lost the right over you. That should go both ways.
You lost the right because you left me. You walked away.
You were married.
Chunga vile unaniuliza mambo sasa.
What kind of questions are these?
Just getting to the bottom of operations here.
Ask me questions about the charity fight and I'll be glad to answer.
Senate sits in the afternoons, but from last week they resolved to sitting in the morning from 10 a.m. Remember, the calendar of Parliament has changed greatly because of the new the pandemic and other considerations of the House sittings, and indeed